We can put whatever we want in it.
Let's put some spinach.
I often find that homemade lasagna is better than restaurant lasagna.
Absolutely.
Like,
Oh yeah.
Totally.
I think
That's
that's the power of lasagna, is that anyone can make good lasagna.
I don't know if I agree with that sentiment, but I do agree that homemade lasagna is better.
There are people who burn water, so we're gonna say not anyone, but it is remarkably easy to make a decent lasagna.
We all know of a person who thought that the egg whites were the shell.
The shells,
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend who managed to burn microwave macaroni and cheese. Like it was one of the ones where you're supposed to put water in, and they just didn't put water in, so it just started on fire.
Oh.
When I was a child, that's really important to the story because I wouldn't do this as an adult, but when I was like 9 years old, my friend and I's mom left us home alone, and she left leftover pizza and was like, you can put it in the microwave for 2 minutes. And then we put it in the microwave for 20 minutes, and then we walked away and started playing GoldenEye, and then smoke started to fill the kitchen, and we were like, oh no. And we had to like deal with that situation before the mom came home, and we managed to do it.
And you didn't get to eat.
No, we did not.
Your meal that night was education.
I think we ended up getting another pizza.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen the very famous?
I did the same thing with an egg roll.
Have you seen the very famous Tumblr story with "This is the worst part" in it? And pizza?
I think so. Yes.
I think about that every single time. People are making pizza at home as making pizza. This is the worst part. Opening the oven, pull the pizza out, and lifting it out with his bare hands, screaming. And I'm like,
oh my god!
Think about that every single time people talk about it. But anyways,
wow.
Welcome to the Pasta Cast.
Pasta fix.
How many episodes we could do for a pasta fix?
How many kinds of pasta are there
now? Actually,
a lot of pastas.
Hey, look,
how many various pasta
Make your own
dishes?
pasta every week.
There's at least 33.
Pasta.
I bet we could get at least a year of episodes out. If we ever do a Patreon, that can be a bonus.
I mean, that's like kinds of pasta, but then you got various pasta dishes with different sauces.
I think you could probably do more than a year of episodes, but I don't want to.
Do we count noodles? Like, do we count like ramen?
No. Pasta is an Italian word for Italian. I'm kidding. I don't know.
It's an Italian word for Italians.
Pasta names often end with the
cultural appropriation to say pasta if you're not Italian.
I'm walking here.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm walking here, and you're cooking like some stir fry.
In a wok, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I thought you were doing a Christopher Walken impression.
I shoved this wok up my ass
for
20 years.
Oh boy.
Video games, huh?
We're all on a steak.
Yeah, video games.
What is? I have never heard of this pasta before. What would you use this for? I guess you would lattice it. No, okay.
What's it called?
Affaldini? Or Maffaldina? It's not Dini, it's Dina. Dine. It's like long strips of lasagna. I assumed like, oh, maybe you can make like some kind of pie lattice thing with it, but it's not. It just, this plate just has it laid out over the plate, over some sauce.
Well, we'll have to do an episode on it.
Yep.
Come back next week after we've done some investigation.
Okay, so Mafaldine is long rectangular ribbons with ruffled sides, and
Andre, save us.
Oh, I know that
rated
stuff.
ribbons. They're the same thing. Anyway,
Andre,
saying
save us
is
from
Italy is lying.
this starchy hell.
There's like 4 kinds of
Oh,
spaghetti.
you want out of the starchy hell? Well, how about I take you into anime hell with Sam?
Oh, wow.
I honestly didn't know where we were going with that.
I'm already
I don't know,
tired,
could have been
and I'm
everyone.
about to get more tired. Just kidding. I like the Trails games a lot.
Sam has left hell. He has conquered his
I'm done.
demons.
I'm free.
For now. until they drag him back,
Ooh,
like they
boss
drag
that-
Kratos back into hell at like the start of every fucking God of War game on the PS2.
Some of these bosses look a little bit like penises without even needing to be like shaped. I'm just saying.
You can do a lot with some pasta and a banana.
And that's been
what I
Legend of
always- I
Heroes
always say-
Trails
I'm
of
always
Cold
saying
Steel
this.
4 End
I'm
of
always saying
Saga.
this.
Allison, what have you brought this week?
That's why I say when I get along so well. I have that thought every day when I get up.
So this week I finished The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4 End of Saga.
Our number 7 game of the year? I can't remember.
6.
6? Sure.
Sam has a tattooed on his arm.
Yeah, so I don't forget the full name and subtitle. Sorry, both
the
subtitles.
placement and the placement on the
and release date, Japanese and North America, or Japanese and Western.
So I don't want to like go too deep really, because I think maybe at some point people on this podcast might play those games. I know Alex and Andre have said they aren't interested, and maybe I'll get you guys to take your headphones off and talk spoilers for a minute. But so yeah, I finished Trails of Cold Steel 4. I absolutely agree with its placement on the list. I think it's like it's a fantastic game, and it ends very, very well. It does an almost Nier Automata thing where it ends and then it goes, hey, do you want to get the true ending? And apparently that's unskippable. Even if you do all the stuff that unlocks the true ending, you have to see the non-true ending and then replay it, which is annoying.
Yeah, that's
Sorry, by replay it, do you mean replay the entire thing?
No, you have to replay like the last boss fight, basically.
Oh, okay.
that's not so bad.
That's
Okay.
not so bad.
I
No.
just had this like flash of like you have to play this 40 like 60-hour game again.
Oh no, it's 80 hours.
Oh.
I think
It
it's
was
a bit
Nier
much.
Reincarnation.
Yeah. So basically, like the concept of Cold Steel 4 is like the plans that have been going since Trails in the Sky are finally at their like at the zenith, the end point. The plan has been enacted, and you're trying to oppose you're opposing an enemy faction. It's so hard to talk about this game without spoilers, because it's literally like even talking about like the members of this enemy faction would spoil things massively, as there's like some fantastic twists along the way. Basically, like I told you guys in the first one that they introduced mech combat in like the very end of the game. You have like a giant mech, and like it's a magic ancient mech, and like a lot of Cold Steel 4 revolves around you traveling around the world, taking out other magic ancient mechs, in kind of the spirit of the seminal Jet Li movie, The One.
The best Jet Li movie, yeah.
It's a very good movie. Jason Statham has hair in it.
I don't know if we need to make that the official stance of this podcast.
No, it's definitely not the best one. It's a good movie. Anyway,
A movie. We can all agree it's a movie.
it is a movie.
It is.
What is a movie? Let's really get into it here.
So yeah, and like the non-true ending ends with like a very big, like over the top boss fight and then a mech fight, and I was like, this feels really anticlimactic. And I finished it, and I'm like sitting there watching the credits, and I'm like, this feels like a terrible ending for having just played over 350 hours of JRPG. And then it goes, hey, if you want, you can load back in, and you can there'll be an option for you to do the true ending. And I was like, right, okay. And the true ending adds 2 new boss fights.
Why even do this?
I don't know is the answer. They've never done it before, not in any of the games. And I feel like they specifically say to you before you go into the final boss fight, like, do as much side stuff as you can, because it's all important on like the last basically the structure of the game is that there's going to be like each chapter starts with a free day where you have like random stuff you can do, where there'll be like quests all over the world, and the world state has updated, so you can go and speak to people, and they've got new dialogue, new quests, and like I just did the mandatory quests on, well, they're not even mandatory, you can skip them completely, but I did all the side quests that they tell you about. That was my philosophy throughout the whole game. I was like, I'll do the ones that they tell you about, because those must be the ones that Falcom thinks are the best, because they show them to you. And I didn't go looking for others, because I literally was like, well, I could do this and it would probably take me another 15-20 hours. You can see people on the Falcom subreddit saying that they spent 150 hours in Cold Steel 4 and didn't like get everything and get the platinum. So I don't have that much time. And yeah, apparently even if you do all the side quests, you still have to see that weird normal ending. And the worst part of the whole process of that is that the normal ending is the beginning of the true ending. Like there's like one change in the true ending, which but it's like 10 minutes into the cinematic for the true ending, so you have to watch the first 10 minutes of the normal ending first. The normal ending isn't bad at all, it was just disappointing based on how good everything else had been, but then the true ending was really good.
This is really strange.
Yeah,
Why would they
it's
do
such a weird
this?
choice. Yeah, like I would love to ask somebody why they did it. It's not bad. It's not like it's
No, but
you only replay, like actually replay, because of the time skip option as well. Like every Cold Steel game, you can double speed
sure.
everything.
But
so like
if
I
it-
double speeded the battles and the cinematics.
If you are someone who's playing Trails of Cold Steel 4 End of Saga, it is generally, I think, safe to assume you've played the first 3 games. I would imagine the number of people who go, the 4th game in a JRPG series that has
Let's jump in.
let's go
Persona
for
4.
this. Yeah, but
They
those
were
are,
trying to
that's a different
push-
kind of thing.
When it's called End of Saga.
Yeah.
Right,
Like, it's
like
clearly
if
the
you
end of
name
a
it End of
continuous
Saga,
story.
you're not like, okay, this is the perfect place to get started.
And if you've played 3 JRPGs to get here, and in a lot of cases, probably 5, or no, what am I saying? 8.
6.
Probably like 30.
Well, no, there's 3
Trails
Trails,
in the
5,
Sky.
6, 7, 8. 8 of them. If you've played
Yeah.
like the Crossbell games and stuff, you could have potentially done. So who's not going to get the true ending? After like 1,000 hours of JRPGs, what player is not going to elect to get the true ending?
They're like, another.
I've had enough. Had enough of this.
There's not enough
It
time.
just seems
in
like
the
that
day.
stuff should have been somehow
It's just not respecting your time. And, like, was there any like difference to the fights, or was it just do it again and then you'll get a different ending?
So they add 2 new boss fights.
But is there any like, is there a justification? Is that like after the cinematic, like 10, like, you know, you get the cinematic and then they add like the 2 boss fights and then you get like the true ending? Or
So
is it, like,
basically, you
before
finish,
the
you finish the
cinematic?
game, and it's like, hey, if you want to go back and get the true ending, you can go. If you reload your game, you'll reload just before the final boss.
Yeah.
So when I reloaded in, it had it has an objective underneath the map every time, and there were 2 objectives, and one of them was like, go check out what's happening outside. And when you go outside, there's like a portal, and it lets you go back to the free day to do one of the side quests.
Okay, so
and
this is
when
like
you do
some Omega weapon shit where it's like an optional boss, but it's
It's an optional boss, but it changes the story if you do it in a genuinely huge, massive way.
why isn't that available ahead of time?
This kind of
God damn
makes they have weird, like in Ys Origin, which is not the same team necessarily, but I'm sure there's crossover. You have to play 2 characters' stories, which is just playing through the same game twice from a different perspective, but like you do all the same fights and stuff. To unlock the 3rd character, and the 3rd playthrough is like the true story of what happened. So they have some, for all of, they make extremely good games from what I have played so far. Like vastly underrated, should be mentioned in the same breath as like the Square Enix's games. But Falcom also doesn't necessarily respect your time that much. That is definitely something that is true about them as a developer.
Yeah, like I think a lot of the respect your time stuff as well is in the beginnings of these games, which are always very slow, and they reintroduce stuff very slowly. There should just be a toggle that's like, I have just finished Cold Steel 3, let me skip the bullshit.
Yes.
Because like when I finished, like this, the biggest example is finishing 2. There's an incredible, huge plot detail that's revealed. Major characters are killed off. Like the country is in, and then the beginning of Cold Steel 3, they're like, "Hey, you're back at school."
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I get it because I think
They're
a
meant
lot
to be
of
played
people,
2 years apart.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't know that I would say
that's
most people, because I think that more people, now that it's done, will go play it. But a lot of people played it with big gaps in time. So
like
So
media does
but yeah,
that. Like, you know, Harry Potter does it. Riverdale does it.
you're just trying to bring a Riverdale.
When am I not? When am I not?
We were talking extensively about Riverdale before the recording
It's
started,
like a
FYI.
solid 20 minutes that we were
Yes.
talking about
long
Riverdale,
Riverdale.
by the way.
Spoilers, we still are talking about Riverdale.
Oh no. Trails of
but the
Cold
true
Steel.
ending is very, very, very good. I shed a tear. I had like rolling waves of goosebumps in the true ending. There's a really good like. There's a couple of characters that are in most of the games, like throughout the whole series. Like they're very important, and those characters have like a big character moment in the finale, and it's very satisfying. They do some really good stuff with multiple squad battles. So like in a Persona game, for example, your whole squad is like 10 people. In Cold Steel 4, I think there's more than 50 characters you can have in your party across the game, whether they're temporary or permanent additions. And in the final battle, they let you play every single one of those characters except one. There's only one that you can. There's one character you can play in only one scene.
One thing that is somewhat frustrating in Trails in the Sky, I can't remember if they give you their stuff back. They might, so you can sell it, but you have lots of rotating characters that come in and out. Every area basically has like a guest character, which is cool, but they don't really come with they have upgraded equipment you can buy for them in the region that they join you in, and they're only with you for about 10 hours, something like that. And so you can spend a bunch of resources getting their best equipment, and then they just leave, and it was a waste of money.
In 4, they don't really do that. If you have a guest character, they come equipped.
Yes,
So
I figured eventually they get there.
yeah, basically for each section of the game, there's they release new weapons and armor, and the characters will always come equipped with a weapon that is commensurate to that level and the gear that you would buy if you were in that section for them. There aren't many guest character bits like that. Most of the time they join your squad and you can play with them for an entire like either half an hour, or you can play with them for like the rest of the game. Yeah, like I was saying to Pat and Jeff last night, because we chatted a bit after we recorded Comic Book Fix, it does a lot of stuff that Avengers Endgame does. Not the stuff that Alison hates, all the good bits that like you were cheering at in the cinema. It uses a lot of those tricks.
I am
gratuitous
used to be
butt
Orlando.
shots.
Yeah, nut shots. Yeah. I wasn't sure what Alex said, so I just went with it.
I said gratuitous butt shots.
Oh,
No, that's
Not really,
We'll get
actually.
to
I
the
feel-
butt shots later in the show.
probably the least pervy Japanese game I've ever played. There's like a couple of scenes in the first Cold Steel where like Regan realizes that one of his friends has a large chest.
I
and
feel
is
like that says
distracted by
more
it.
about you than it does about Japanese games.
What I was going to say, I don't know for certain. I don't have her name in front of me, but one of the like longest running, maybe the only original Falcom employee that's worked there for like their whole history is a woman who has done a lot of the art design stuff and marketing stuff for Falcom, and I think she's had a lot of influence over the years, and it's led to like having now played 3 Ys games and having played a lot of Trails in the Sky. They're not particularly like pervy in a gross way at all. There's characters within them who are gross dudes, but it's very clear that they are not good.
Don't throw shade at Randy.
or that
Randy Orlando is a
says-
treasure, as I say, who have never played the games. I just love the name Randy Orlando.
I'm not necessarily going so far as to say that that Falcom's oeuvre is like is extremely feminist or anything, but perviness is always, horniness is not necessarily seen as a character flaw, but perviness is always seen as a character flaw in everything that I have seen.
Horniness is next to godliness. So
yeah, there's a horny character in Trails in the Sky 1 who maybe takes it a little bit far at times, but it's generally like they don't frame it as like they are horny and therefore that makes them bad. When they get a little pervy, that is called out as like that's not appropriate behavior by the other characters, but their horniness is not.
That happens a lot in Cold Steel as well. There's one character, there's one woman who is explicitly like very pervy over the women in a group, and everyone's like, Angelica, this isn't okay. Stop this.
Yeah.
Randy also makes a very offhand comment about one of the other characters' boobs, and everyone's like, Jesus Christ, Randy, like, stop it.
Yeah, it's actually kind of
does that make you Randy, baby?
It's very refreshing to see the times that the characters are horny. They're very much like, fucking stop it. They're not horny pervy.
A character turns up basically that Randy hasn't seen in a while, and he's like, nice to see those two are still growing. And everyone's like, Jesus Christ, Randy.
Yeah.
Like,
Man,
everyone
okay,
really
I
has
feel
a go
like my
at him.
opinion of Randy Orlando just goes like up and down and up and down. But I just love
He's
that
very
name
cool.
so much.
Yeah, to the moon.
He's very cool. He's got a great name. He's extremely powerful and awesome. He's massively overpowered, which is very good. And he fits in really well with his crew. Like, his crew of characters is great. They're from a series of games that I know the least about, because like I was really into the Trails in the Sky like recaps that I watched, and like watched them really diligently. And then the Crossbell game recaps that I watched like while looking after Peter. But like, I massively love those characters from Crossbell. I think it's because like there's a lot of Crossbell stuff in Cold Steel, so you get to see those characters from the point of view of people who love them, which is really awesome. But yeah, I won't talk any more about this because it's been like 40 minutes. But
It's been like 10
absolutely
minutes, but-
everybody should.
Yeah, we
everybody
had a
should
lot
play
of positive
these
talk
games.
at the start, but
Yeah,
yeah, no,
definitely.
I'm definitely interested in playing them at some point.
It's one of those things where I would absolutely say, like, get these games and just play an hour before bed.
What's
every
also
day.
great about Trails in the Sky anyway is I've been playing it kind of on and off for like a year now, and every time I go back to it I only need like 15-20 minutes and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember what's going on. Not because the story is overly simple, but because it's so memorable that once you're back in that mode, it's pretty easy to go like, yes, that's right, this happened and that's why we're here. It's cool because it's not like the kind of game where I feel like I have to restart when I put it down for a month or two, which is nice.
Yeah. Again, I won't talk too long. I'm writing a review. I literally am just like, I don't really know what to say without spoiling this game. And I want it to be spoiler free because I think it's very important that people know that this game and the series ends well if you're thinking about picking up one or two.
Yeah, especially if you're thinking about going to Trails in the Sky, because then you're talking about 9 total games.
Yeah, I mean, like, the investment.
Who would play a 9-game
worth it.
series in a short period of time? That's ridiculous.
Who among us would do such a thing?
Speaking of JRPGs with
Oh.
long histories and maybe some perviness, maybe some no perviness. I don't even know. Allison, what's going on?
No, like the perviness is from the fans, which is like very annoying because
That's
everybody
such a beef for this.
Yeah, like that is the biggest thing is that people is that generally, from what I could tell, most of these games are pretty not pervy, but then people are just like, let's ruin it all and talk sexually about the main character. So I've been playing, I finished Atelier Ryza 1, and now I am playing 2. I've only put a couple of hours into 2 so far, so I don't have a whole lot to say. However, it really feels like a lot of the issues I had with 1 are have been fixed, which is kind of exciting to see where it goes, because there are a couple of things with the combat where I was like, I don't know if I really like the way that they're doing this this combat, and then suddenly in 2 I'm like, oh, you changed it in a way that makes sense. Imagine that. So it's fun, and there's also a lot more exploration than in Ryza 1. Like there's a lot more. Like in Ryza 1, it's pretty much like if you go out into an exploration area and there's a field, it's like kind of pretty flat and pretty like, you can explore, but there's not a whole lot of like depth to it. Whereas here, I like immediately went off the main path, which I probably shouldn't have done. And then like suddenly I was like fell off a cliff and I'm like, okay, where am I? And having to figure out what I'm doing. So in a fun way. So I've been, it's also very fun to see the characters again. The thing that's kind of interesting about the series is that they're really not that tied together that much, because there's a lot of games in the series, but only the games in each specific like sub-series are technically connected, but even then they're mostly standalone. Whereas this is like maybe, I think there might have been some earlier on direct sequels, but like this is the first direct sequel in a long time. So it's kind of unusual for them.
To that point, I'm looking at it. There are 22 main games, and there are about 35 side games and remakes.
Yeah, so it's a big series, but it's very much like, I feel like in some ways the anti-Trails, where it's like these aren't really connected, because they're like the sub-series are like they have connections, but that most of them are focusing on different characters. Like all of the games in the Arlen series, which is like when they first started on PS3, all of them have different main characters. And I think from what I understand, having not played them, but wanting to play them sometime maybe this year, like the other characters they might show up briefly, but it's not necessarily in a main way. So so this is kind of unexpected. They say that they were planning this before Ryza came out, but part of that is also like Ryza is by far like its biggest seller in the series, which is kind of incredible for being the 21st main entry in the series, that it ended up selling super well. So they ended up making a direct sequel, which is really fun, but also it's nice to it's been nice to see some of the existing characters and meet the new characters, and it's like you get a real sense of character growth too, because you pretty quickly run into Tao, who is one of your like main party members from Ryza 1, and like he's still the same character, but you can really tell that he's kind of come into his own a lot more. And so is Ryza too. Like one of the first, like when you get to the tutorial battle, she like in the first game there's kind of the stereotypical like, oh, it's a monster, what are we gonna do, kind of thing, whereas here it's like, okay, well, I'm a little rusty and I don't have my best equipment with me and I'm alone, but I should be able to handle this is just like a basic monster. Like it really does a decent job of acknowledging, you know, they've been through big adventures before, and they've already done a lot of stuff before, but you know, but also by making it so that you could theoretically jump in if you wanted to with Ryza 2, it starts over on a lot of the being able to craft things and fighting, but it justifies that. I mean, however well you think it justifies that, it's kind of like up to you. But I think it does a pretty decent job as to why you have to kind of start over, because she's starting over in the capital city of the area she's in, and she's using like new items and using new stuff, and that's the other big thing about the series that I haven't really even touched on with this today, is that the big draw of the series is the alchemy system, which is different in each game, but it's basically like a giant crafting system that I think is really, really appealing and really, really fun to play around with, where it's like almost as big a deal, if not more, than the combat. Like the combat is almost like in service of the alchemy system. So it's like with Ryza 1, I don't want to I don't know if it's quite as spoiler intensive as the Trail series, but like you have the final battle and then you have to go like and do more alchemy afterwards. Like it's in service of that kind of crafting system versus the other way around. So so that's one of the fun things, and I think that Ryza 2 is doing a really good job with that so far. So I'm just really excited to keep playing this game. And maybe get into the rest of the series later this year after I finish Ryza 2, because the thing that's nice about this game is that it's very like relatively lighthearted and relatively kind of cozy. So especially if you're having a like busy time, or like I know that I've been like busy with work and stuff, which is why I haven't had a ton of time to play it. It's very nice to be able to just kind of sit back and do some alchemy and have kind of a more lighthearted kind of anime story, because it is also very, very anime, but in a very kind of different, chill kind of way. So I recommend it to people if any of that sounds appealing, but I think it's a great game, but I'm excited. Yeah.
Do you think anything about it in particular made it as successful as it is, or was it just kind of a time and place thing? Like it was just released at the right time and everybody hopped on?
I don't know. I mean, part of it is that people are like weirdly pervy about the Ryza, which sucks, because of like she's such a good character in addition, but like people, and I feel like the games don't really sexualize characters very much.
It looks like it's just in the art. Like I pulled it up.
Yeah.
I Game and searched it, and there are a lot of costumes that were clearly made to be a certain thing.
Like fan service-y.
Yeah, I see like one where she's in kind of like some swimsuit bottoms and stuff like that are like kind of suggestive. But I think that I would be surprised if the intent was there to do this, but I also think like the truth of the matter is, just because a character wears something does not mean that it's an invitation for you to sexualize them.
Yeah. And
just
also,
like in real life, when someone wears an outfit, it does not mean that you have like the right to sexualize them.
Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, a lot of the art, especially for like from a Western perspective, like a lot of the art in the earlier games in the series is pretty like cutesy, whereas Ryza is very specifically much more of like a kind of, she's more curvy, and while her outfits are covering, they're a little bit more revealing than like the kind of like existing style for a lot of the series. So it, like, part of you wonders that, but then also part of it is, I think part of it is also like a right place and time too.
Like the old games were pretty much, to use anime terms, they were pretty much considered moe for forever, as long as I can remember. So
yeah, there's
that's
like
fair.
I've got a real bone to pick with like JRPG YouTubers at the moment, because like I've been looking into Ryza and I've been watching like Trails reviews and stuff about Cold Steel 4, like spoiler casts and stuff. And there's been people, like I've been tuning into like a stream or something, and the streamer will have all the female characters in swimsuits, because you can buy you can pay money to get a swimsuit set. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not watching this streamer. And I was watching another one, and one of the characters, there's like a swimming battle in one of the games, where like there's a swimming mini game basically, and you have to face, and the swimming club faces off against class 7, and then the principal, who is a voluptuous woman, walks in her swimsuit, and the streamer was like, oh boy, and he was just like screaming about it, and I was like, okay,
and to be fair, like all of the characters have like swimsuit things, and all of the characters have like similarly revealing outfits. Well. Like one of the main characters in Ryza, Lent, he very specifically is just wearing a crop top the whole time, and so it's like, okay, like there's a lot of, you know, like revealing outfits for the male characters. And it's like, it's different, but at the same time, it like, you know, if they are very specifically like, okay, all the female characters are going to be in the swimsuits, and then all the male characters are going to be in their like normal outfits, it's like,
look, not everyone can be a 9.5 foot tall vampire lady. So they got to work with what they've got. They've got to exercise the options that are available to them. And if that's a swimsuit, that's a swimsuit.
That's kind of what I'm saying to a degree, though, is like, if the characters are written really well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, they have the Ryza has sort of some sexy outfits, so therefore the game is horny and sucks. Like that's not, and it also, like I was saying, does not mean that you as a player need to go, oh, this game, I'm going to be horny for this game now because it has some horny stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a very like, yeah, you know, it is a balance that you achieve, right? And it's like, part of it is a little bit frustrating because it's like, oh, you're probably part of that is like, hey, we want to sell copies of this game, let's add this DLC. But at the same time, I'm like, it is frustrating when everybody calls her like,
they don't make the DLC to sell copies of the game. They just make the DLC because they know people will buy it and just funnel them more and more money. I bet that DLC is like $50 or something. Like costume packs are ridiculous for these games, like Dead or Alive or anything.
Well, also, it's like, the thing is that this is like Koei Tecmo, and they very specifically are like, let's just not go on sale. And these games are, so that's the biggest issue I'd say with getting into this series, is that it is kind of an expensive series to get into, which, like, you know, they're good RPGs. So, and I feel like if we're talking about games respecting your time, like they're actually pretty moderate length RPGs,
which is awesome,
which is nice. Yeah, so it like, I feel like playing Ryza 1, it never felt like it was outlived it, like it stayed longer than its welcome. Like it really felt like it was the right length for what it was, but at the same time, like it is expensive, and then the DLC is expensive, and they have packs of the older games, which is great, but they're still like $30 a pop. And it's like, and that's only if you buy the pack of like the 3 Erland games or the pack of the 3 Dusk games. So that's like a $90 purchase. So it's like kind of hard to get into the series if you're like if you want to not pay a lot of money.
Sure.
But I mean, also,
Just
Because they
wait,
step
and the
back
entire
into-
series will be on Game Pass.
I think some of them are on PS Now. I think I'm not sure, but it looks like yeah. So they are. There are other games to get into it. It's like they are expensive, and I was like looking at the Ryza 2 DLC, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me when it comes to that cost. Like, I kind of wanted one of the outfits, but it only comes in a very specific the
Like bundle.
like bundle, like it's the like super ultra deluxe version, or it's like the ultimate edition where
That's how they
one
get
of the outfits is for Ryza is one of the characters from the other series, the Mysterious series. So it's has Sophie's outfit, which is like a very cute outfit, and I like it. But I'm like, I'm not buying this game for like $120, you know, for a single outfit that I would like.
It's funny. Every time I've looked at buying, because I was buying like Yeast games and stuff too. They don't really do this a ton. Actually, they do with Yeast 8. And I did this when I bought Persona 5 Royal when it was on sale. I was like, oh, should I get the deluxe editions? And it's so weird to me because usually I say yes because they'll have an extra quest or something in them, but they're all just costume DLC for all of these games. It's so funny.
Yeah,
So I
and-
don't care. For once, I'm like, I don't fucking care about this.
Yeah, and like in the season pass for Ryza 2, like there's there's another area you can go to, but I don't know if it's going to necessarily have any like story content or any stuff. And they're like, it's a high difficulty area, but it's like, I don't care about the difficulty in this game. Like with Ryza 1, the final boss battle was just like a huge difficulty spike. So I just went and turned it down to easy, and I upgraded all of my characters' items and weapons and just went through it because I'm like, I can't imagine that you'd play any of these games and be like, I play it for the difficulty or the combat. Like, it's fine, but it's not, you know, you play it for the exploration, you play it for the characters, you play it for the
DLC
crafting systems,
costumes.
you play it for the DLC costumes. But yeah, I don't know. It's yeah.
Okay. Alex, we cut you off a while ago. Do you still have that thought?
It still exists. I don't know if it's super relevant, and we probably should move away from JRPG land at some point. But I was just gonna
We're
say,
looking at a 4.5
Do
hour
we need
episode.
to?
Right now.
Yeah. Oh, well,
yeah,
yeah.
I'll make it brief. I was just thinking about other kind of JRPGs that lure you in with the fan service, but it turns out those characters are way more than that. Like especially Nier. Like if you start getting into like Kaine and stuff like that, and also 2B, like. Yeah, people are like, oh, French made, but you get into it and it's like, oh, existential despair. Like it's really, I think it's positive when they kind of subvert their own kind of design, in a manner of speaking.
I think too, like there's tons of, I think it's absolutely valid to look at the copy of Nier Automata and be like, I don't want to play a game where I play as that kind of character. I would never like fault someone for that. I get it. Even if I agree with what you're saying, Alex. But I also would say like, there's so many Smite skins and League of Legends skins and like,
Oh, totally.
parts of Western games that do similar things with art. And so I don't know, like
It's like not just a JRPG thing.
No, it's really not.
That like and like I said, like I think that these games aren't that bad with it. It's like, oh yeah, she has shorts that are kind of tight, but it's like, you know, relatively speaking,
it's I think
It's warm out.
I think the intent with the art is certainly to draw people
right?
people
Oh,
in.
totally.
I put something in our group chat that's like this outfit on its own. I mean, like it's the way that it's posed and stuff. It is very clearly like, hey boys,
Yeah.
come play this game. But I don't think
Yeah.
that necessarily means that the game itself is like somehow problematic. It's just it's like I said earlier, like horniness is not necessarily a crime. If it's turned into perviness in the story for like underaged women, then that's a different story. And
Horniness
then
is
we
not a
need to-
crime. Free Randy Orlando.
Anyway, yeah.
All right. Well, we are going to move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
I wanna
but,
play that series.
I love that series.
It's
and
on my list.
Yeah,
That's the most
Oh, and
JRPG talk we've had in a long time.
and the Mysterious series is coming to, like, the entirety of it is coming to Switch. Yay!
I think for me, part of this reason why I'm into this like JRPG renaissance is for whatever reason. I knew intellectually that the genre was wider than stuff like Final Fantasy, but I just, as an adult, don't really have an interest in the sort of, and this isn't a value judgment, I'm saying personal preference, don't really have an interest anymore in the sort of like Bravely Default, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest style of like, you have three characters on one side of the battle and three characters on the other side, and you're pressing menu buttons to attack. I'm more interested now in like varied combat systems. And while I knew that those existed within JRPGs, I had never really dove into how many series do that. So like now that I know that like the Trails series has engaging, like to me, engaging and interesting takes on turn-based combat that adds in some tactics. And like Ys is an action RPG. I didn't know that before I started playing it. So that's why I've been like engaged more with different RPGs, is to see like more varied combat systems, because as much as like Octopath has incredible art, and I think it does that turn-based combat really well. So this isn't.
Okay, I was gonna
it's
say,
not
I'm like,
good.
I think it has great combat, but
Yeah, I totally could see why. But when I played it, I was like, God, I've played like 8 Final Fantasy games like this. I've spent probably thousands of hours playing this kind of combat, and it's not really that engaging to me anymore. Go on another tangent and end up at 2 hours before we move on, then we'll know where
It's
we're
okay.
at.
I don't think we're going to have to talk too long about this particular video game, but it is an interesting one. It's one I had not heard that much about. And that is a video game called Nuts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's
I
on
looked
Apple
at this.
Arcade.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is
this
on
looks-
Apple
This
Arcade.
looks pretty
So
cool.
is
It's on my
this
list to check out.
squirrel game?
Yeah,
Yes, so it
take
is.
pictures of them.
Yep, Nuts is a game all about squirrels. You are basically starting your job as like a park ranger-y kind of thing, and it's kind of got a Firewatch vibe going on in that most of your communication is happening over a telephone with another kind of disembodied voice. And it's really interesting, yeah, because like it's essentially an adventure or puzzle game where you are taking cameras and placing them at places in the environment, and you are using them to film known areas where squirrels have been around. And you're doing certain tasks to kind of do things with these, or like find things out about these squirrels. Like one of the early tasks, so as not to spoil anything, because there's stuff you can kind of spoil in it, but like one of the early tasks is, all right, you're going to find the stash from this squirrel. So you find it on your little map, it shows you, okay, this is the last place the squirrel was seen. So you set up your camera there, 2 cameras, I should say, because you kind of have camera 1, camera 2. You go to your little, I don't know, the place where your equipment is, and then you push record, and then you're kind of scrubbing through the footage to see where the squirrel went. And the squirrel goes the same path every night, so you are basically tracking them down by way of these cameras. So you're strategically placing them to say like, oh, okay, I saw run past camera 1. Okay, now I can see it in the corner of camera 2. Okay, that means I have to change the angle here and here, and then you do it again, and you do it again, and at the end you finally find it, and you take the video, you take a screenshot of that video basically, and then you fax that image to your Delilah.
It's a literal fax.
It's a fax machine. Yeah.
Nice.
It is a fax machine, and you send it off, and she calls you immediately. Like she receives the fax, and within like half a second your phone is ringing, and she's like, oh my God, you have just helped save this endangered animal, kind of stuff.
That's how I feel when I see pictures of wildlife.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, it's a really interesting game. The art style is really unique. It's very there's not a lot of visual fidelity going on, but there's a lot of shading and just general really cool.
Yeah,
contrast.
looking at it on Google, it's like it looks really interesting.
Yeah, and like depending when you're in like the different quote unquote stages, it totally changes the color palette, which is really nice. Kind of like you know how in Obra Dinn you could switch like it's the same visual style, but you can switch between the different palettes. It's kind of like that. And it's really effective. It's good. I think Pat, you might actually enjoy this because it is kind of a mystery game in a manner of speaking. It's really, really, really chill.
I fully intend to play it. It looks really, really good. I've seen it a couple of times and I keep going, oh yeah, I got to play that. Oh yeah, I got to play that. So it's on my list for sure.
Only negative side I would say is that it's pretty short. It's about probably finish it in like 2 hours.
Cool.
And like I think on Steam or Itch or Humble, it's on all those places. And Switch, it's like $15 to $20. I can't remember exactly, but so it's a little harsh there, kind of, but it's still really good. And if you have Apple stuff, then it's on Apple Arcade, so it's probably worth playing there. So nuts.
I'm gonna play it. I think on my iPad on Apple Arcade is my plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hadn't heard of this, but I'm interested in it now. It looks interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how
same.
to control with iPad, but I'm also old because it is a first-person game, and I personally find touch screen controls for moving someone around in a like.
I hate it.
Like a WASD space is weird, but yeah.
But if it's more of an adventure puzzle kind of slower paced thing,
yeah.
then it's fine. I can get over it for that. I can't stand
there's
it
no
if
reactions.
it's like I can't play Call of Duty Mobile with touchscreen controls, for example. But I just plug in a controller and then I win the game.
Yeah, it's very slow paced. And in case anyone is worried in like the Firewatch sense or like the Gone Home sense, if there's any horror elements to it, no, it's chill.
That's too bad. I'm kidding.
What if
They do some interesting stuff, but
squirrels go Five Nights at Freddy's on you?
I mean, like you're kind of looking at like CRT TVs with like scan lines going on, and like sometimes there's static, so you could see how it could turn
So
into that.
I
But
can get my FNAF fix.
Mm-hmm.
Great. We all know how
we're
much I
not
love those
starting.
games.
We're not starting an FNAF fix.
I have before argued that those are the worst video games ever made, so have no
They're
fear.
up there. But yeah, so that's nuts. Totally
That's
worth the play.
nuts.
That's nuts, man.
That's
These
knuckin'
nuts.
futz.
Yeah, but no, it's good. It's chill. Made by a really small team.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's take a 5-minute TV show break. what is this show?
All right. So, yeah, I started and finished a show this week, which is called Keep Your Hands Off Isaacan.
Yes. Oh my god. I love
Wait,
that
have you
show.
seen this?
Yes.
Oh, you've seen it?
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
I love
I don't
Isaacan.
remember if we talked about it. Yeah, it's so good. Sorry, Pat, go for it.
No, I was to say you two should start like an anime fix. It seems like there's always drifting that occurs with your show choice.
I would be game.
We could totally do it. But
Fix Podcast
Isaacan,
Network.
it's such a cool show. Like the art style is just fantastically
It's
unique.
so good. Oh my god.
Like it's like really low fidelity for the most part. Like it looks kind of ugly in spots, but it's extremely deliberate. And then it just goes totally nuts. Like the entire show is 100% a love letter to all things animation. Like all things animation, all things creative. Like if you have ever done anything creative, if you've done creative writing or music or art or anything like that, you should 100% watch this show because it is spectacular. Like for that specific kind of mindset, I can't think of a show that better showcases what it's like to actually like, do that stuff.
yeah, and like the joy of it too, where
Oh, totally.
yeah, because there's like a couple of scenes in particular that I'm thinking about where it's just like the love of it shines through, and you can see just like the process of them creating it involved. It's just so
Yeah,
so good.
It's awesome because it's a show that's very realistic about how animation is made, because they start off with all these really big ideas where they're like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. It's going to be so cool. And like, as the show's going on, like you can see their animation ideas coming to life around them. Like they're talking about it all excitedly. And like the animators of this show are animating it around them, but they're amateurs. So when they make it, it doesn't look as good and it's a little janky. And they're like, oh, we want to do this all by hand, but we have a deadline. We have like 2 days to do this. We're not going to be able to finish this.
They're trying to do stuff before this like club presentation, and so it's like they have a deadline, but also like one of the characters is specifically like the producer, so it's like dealing with the realities of it, but also the joy of it. Yeah, so it turns into a show that's all about like compromise and like, you know, giving up some parts of your artistic intent for the sake of getting it done, which is so realistic when you're doing anything creative with a deadline. It's really good. I would say it's not really a binge show. Like, I don't think I would watch all of it in one sitting. It's split up into 3 discrete arcs. It's 12 episodes. Each arc is like 4 episodes. And I think you could probably watch a 4-episode arc in a night. And that's basically them completing one animation. And they do that 3 times overall. So I think it's worth watching that way. Oh, it's so good.
It's really excellent.
And speaking of stuff, it's like all the 3 main characters are all women, but it's like not sexualized in any way. They're like they're clearly drawn by their love of animation. And then there's also like a lot of environmental diversity, which is really interesting with it, because it's specifically vaguely set in like future Japan, like not necessarily like overtly, but it's like specifically like a little bit a few years in the future, but it's like you see characters that are people of color, you see like a lot like different languages up over their school. That's very specifically intentionally diverse in that way.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I love that show so much.
Yeah, it's really great. I would recommend it to pretty much anyone on this cast. I think it would probably be a really good show to watch with someone who's never watched an anime, honestly. Though it has some amazing references to Ghibli movies.
Oh, yeah. The opening theme song slaps.
How would someone go about watching Keep Your Hands Off, Eizouken?
I watched it on Crunchyroll.
It's on Crunchyroll. It's also on HBO Max.
What, really?
Yeah, no, they have like a Crunchyroll section that's like not all of Crunchyroll, but that's like kind of like a selection of shows. But I was really happy to see like amongst like a lot of other popular shows, they also had Eizouken. So I was really happy about that. So hopefully it'll kind of like expose it to more people.
That's interesting. That's cool. So yeah, I guess on major streaming services.
All right. Well, that was your quick anime fix. Next, Pat is gonna once again regale us of his tales of multiplayer jubilation, stick and rock game stuff.
Yes. I'm also playing Dark Souls 2, which fucking rules. Those games. I'm a Souls guy now. Those games are just kind of without peer. Anyway, that's something that I'll have more thoughts on when I complete the series of them. But yeah, so last year my friends and I had like a month-long obsession with Ark Survival Evolved, where we were playing on a private server that I was running, and we basically played. A couple of the people that I play with will just like take 2 or 3 days off of work spontaneously and then they played Ark like for 8 hours straight and stuff. So we didn't really have one. I really wanted Conan Exiles to stick and be the next one of those, but it did not. So we haven't played one for a long time, since last year. But one of the people in that group noticed that this game Valheim came out like earlier this week, and it was like, oh, we should give this one a try. And we did, and it's very fun. So it's another one of those. It's a stick and rock game. I'm running a server right now for us. It has a very sort of low poly art style that they claim is like an attempt at more of like a PS1 style of art. It has less aliasing and it's got really pretty lighting, but definitely like low res textures.
Interesting question. I didn't realize that it was one that server that you were hosting. Is that kind of becoming norm with this kind of game? I always thought they were dedicated servers or a central server.
So sorry, I'm not hosting it at my, like, personally. I'm paying for it. So what you do is you rent a server, and it's like, it depends on the number of players. It's usually around $1 a slot per month. And then you have to start at like 10 slots or something.
Officially from the developers or
no. So from third-party hosts, I'm using Gportal for this one. I used a different host, the name I can't remember, for Arc.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so you're kind of, you can shop around for them. The developer recommended Gportal for this particular game because it's really new, so not very many providers have servers yet. But what is interesting about it is that this game has a 10-player cap on servers. It is not the problem we ran into consistently with Arc is that Arc is designed to have around 100 to 200 players on a server. So the point is, you join and they have like dedicated servers that the developer hosts that are a fucking wasteland. But the point is, you join a server and maybe you're playing with 3 or 4 other friends, and then you join a community of another 10 or 15 people. And then it's all about the like politics of these different communities interacting, which sounds awesome to me, except that that's super toxic. It becomes, if you join public communities, it immediately becomes like really, really awful. Because there's very little moderation on the official servers. So you just get like griefing all over the place, lots of horrible language, stuff like that. So it's just not a good scene. And so that was one of our key problems with Arc is once we kind of did everything we could do, it was time to like fight the bosses and do the like actual content. And it's designed for like 30 to 40 people, more like a WoW raid. And we just didn't, you can adjust the difficulty, but it got really frustrating quickly. So Valheim is cool because it's a 10-player max server. It's designed primarily for 3 to 5 player groups. You can play it solo, but they say like, hey, it'll be harder. And the best descriptor that I saw for this game was from a Steam review. It's pretty prominent. I'm not going to say their username, but you can easily find it if you go look at Steam reviews. That said that Valheim is like if Skyrim and Terraria had a baby and it really liked Dark Souls, which I think is a pretty good descriptor of what this game is. It's definitely very Terraria in its progression and kind of gameplay mechanics. But it is in a 3D open world.
So can you like summon bosses and stuff like that?
So that's sort of the point. That's sort of the progression is you are initially dropped in like every world is a procedurally generated world. It's huge. The worlds are massive. And there's at this point 5 biomes with I think 9 total planned when it's out of early access. And the idea is you kind of build your little base, farm up to the best kind of equipment you can get. And then eventually you'll hit a point where you don't have the thing you need to make your stuff better or to make better stuff. And then you need to fight a boss in the biome that you're in. And they have different spawning mechanics. So like the first one, and there's a little puzzle around it. So like the first one, there's an altar with a big deer over it. And it says hunt their kin or hunt his kin. And you place deer antlers on the altar and then it spawns a boss and it's this big deer. And the bosses have unique mechanics, kind of by no means approaching the quality level of a Dark Souls boss, but still good beyond what I kind of expected. Like we're trying to fight this tree guy now and he like throws roots at you and then follows you around and has big sweep attacks. And in the meantime, one of the things I like is, yes, you're cutting down trees and hitting stones and stuff, but you're also going into dungeons and fighting like groups of skeletons to get resources, and you're hunting trolls as a group in the forest and stuff. So it has a pretty wide range of gameplay concepts. It's not just like hit enough trees until you have the stuff you need to spawn the boss and then kill the boss. It feels more like a kind of adventure RPG where you happen to be building the towns that you use for crafting and sleeping yourself. And it has a lot of like quality of life stuff, like food never expires in this game. Unlike most of these games, usually these games have a concept of like, oh, well, the game's still running when you're offline and you have to get in and log in and do your maintenance in the morning and fix the buildings because they're decaying. This game doesn't have any of that. We do run the server overnight, but time just passes and resources replenish during that time. You don't lose stuff. And there's no concept of like, the food system is really cool. There's no concept of starving in this game. It's just that you eat food and then it raises your maximum health and heals you up to that. And as you get hungry again, you just don't heal anymore when you lose health below that threshold. Works the same way with like stamina.
Do you poop?
No,
Yep.
no, there's
Like,
there's no pooping.
Not like
Okay,
not like
well,
Ark.
that's yeah. I
No.
see. Ark is the superior game.
No pooping all over the place. The physics are really good in this game, in my opinion. And by really good, I mean really good, not necessarily really realistic. It's surprisingly not janky for being a super small. It's a 4-person Swedish team. Oh, it also has a Viking theme. I can't remember if I said that, but it's
No.
maybe
cool.
obvious from the name. But the premise is that Odin has plucked you. Like you go to Valheim. Odin has sent the Valkyries to send warriors to Valheim, and if you can fight your way out of Valheim, then you go to Valhalla. You can cut trees down, and the trees have physics. They fall, and they're big. They're like really tall, and they can fall on you and kill you. But if you, for example, make your fort at the bottom of a hill and then cut a tree down and then the log rolls down the hill, it can just take out your entire building. And when
Hell
stuff
yeah.
like that happens, it is very funny. And I enjoy that quite a bit. We've had a lot of. Last night we decided we were going to go fight the tree boss, so we went off and built a little like base across the river from it and built the first like good boat that's not just a raft to go across the river. And then when we got across the river and fought the boss, we got like destroyed, and then we all respawned back at this new base that we built completely nude and with no food. It has like Dark Souls style, you have to run back to your body to pick up your stuff. And so we couldn't swim across the river because we didn't have enough stamina and health to do it. So we had to then like run all the way back naked through the forest to get back to the old base.
Hell yeah.
Where we had some stuff that could allow us to like transport to where the boss was and pick up our
So-
bodies.
Who
So
hasn't done
is it-
that though? To be honest,
Yeah. Is it like Rust where you got a big old ding dong swinging around?
Nope. It's very much not. It doesn't have that.
no
kinda
poop, no
stuff.
ding dongs.
No. Which, that stuff is
Cat.
very funny.
What do you
Your
even bring
character
into
does
us?
scream in the /yell, so the whole server sees it.
Oh,
I have
okay.
arrived when you log on. Which is very funny. It's not
Okay,
your
that's pretty
control.
good.
When you log on, you just, and if you're standing near them, the screen shakes.
All right.
'Cause
That's
there's
pretty
very
good.
One of the things I love about this game is the combat is like far and above what most of these games usually have for combat. And part of that's because the screen shake is aggressive. You can turn it off if that's something that makes you uncomfortable. Like, for accessibility and comfort reasons, it's good that it can be turned off. But I love it because when you hit something with a club, the screen just goes crazy. And it has like parrying and stuff like that. So it has a kind of Dark Souls light combat. And I recommend it for sure.
Is it like Dark Souls or even Terraria to an extent where it's not explicit about what like you have to do to like find a boss or whatever? Or is it like a kind of you discover it on your own and then like you
Yeah.
tell your buddies like, oh shit, look what I just found, and then you get wrecked by giant skulls rolling down a hill or something?
Yep, that's totally what it's like. You're kind of, there's a lot of discovery, and since it's so new, a lot of the information around it is incomplete in the way that kind of happens with FromSoft games. It's been in alpha for like 3 years, so there's some mechanics that are well mined, but the early access release is like the first huge update. And what happened was they were originally taking donations to fund the alpha development, so that's why it was moving so slow. But they recently got picked up by Coffee Stain Studios, which is the publishers of Deep Rock Galactic and publisher and developer of Satisfactory and Goat Simulator. So they have influx of cash now and can actually like work through this game. I would also say I don't know anything about the people who make it. I don't know. I will say that like Viking themed games made by Norse developers sometimes, or Swedish developers as this team is, there's a little bit of like, I don't know if down the road I'm gonna feel bad for playing this game. There's been a couple of games that the developers have ended up being not great people. But this game right out the bat, like it has gender options and like a skin tone slider that's like that's very inclusive. So I'm not as concerned about it as I would be with stuff like Mordheim, where it's like, yeah, you can only be a white guy at launch. Weird. Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm looking at an article that came out about this 18 hours ago. Apparently there's also sailing in this game, and
yes,
someone got to the edge of the world.
Yeah, it's a big world, but it wouldn't be that hard.
But what they found at the edge is pretty good. I won't spoil you in case you don't want to know.
No, I'd like to find that out. We have one thing that's interesting with these games. The other thing about mechanics I'll say that is another big selling point for me is your character is your character. It's more like you're making a Diablo character. You're not like making a character for the server you're playing on. You're making a character that is kind of saved locally.
That's like Terraria then.
Yes, exactly. So you can play. So like if we take a break and decide to shut our server down, we can keep our characters and start a new server and then just kind of breeze through the early game or even skip it entirely, because all of the knowledge for crafting stuff is tied to your character. So you could like theoretically spawn on a new procedurally generated server and then just immediately make the best boat if you already know how to do it from having played it before. So that part's kind of nice too. And that it'll track across single player and multiplayer servers. The one risk factor is if you have really good armor, for example, and go on a public server and then someone like somehow griefs you, the PvP is consensual, so you can't just like kill people, but someone griefs you and takes all your stuff somehow, then you can't get it back because it does like constantly save your character. But the thing I was going to say before we can move on is these games always create a weird political space in my group because we we're close friends and we play a lot of games together. It's like the three of us play Call of Duty all the time, and we play a couple other games together, and then the fourth guy doesn't really play competitive games, but whenever a co-op game comes up, he jumps in for it. But there's such interesting dynamics of like people getting frustrated at each other for doing different things, and like one person taking a day off from work to like discover a bunch of mechanics and build a bunch of stuff and then hold a seminar in the evening, and we're all kind of told how the game works, and it's really frustrating.
It's a lunch and learn.
Yeah, so it's interesting the way that these games draw out like because ultimately it's a game and the consequences are pretty minimal. I think they can be interesting ways to build and understand the communication in groups of friends better, because it's very much like the equivalent of like, we're going to work on this project together we're embarking on a project. And that's one of my favorite things about these games is like, I got very frustrated yesterday that my one friend took a bunch of time off of work apparently to like build a portal network so we could fast travel between our bases, because I was like, oh, that would have been a fun thing for us to like learn about together, and now I've logged in and it's just here. But at the same time, what it really came down to was it was a useful way for me to like think about those feelings and why that frustrated me, and then place it contextually in, we're just playing a game together and it's just for fun, and then getting over it very quickly because in the end it wasn't super consequential. And I would much rather work through those feelings in this environment rather than like my professional environment. So I think they're really, if you have people that you want to play something like this with, I think they're good for kind of building some of those communication skills also. So yeah, I don't know. It's really fun. It's even things like there's a diversity of weapons in it. If you use knives, they do more backstab damage. So you can kind of like, we have one person who's trying to spec that way and is using better sneaking armor. So he's like doing stealth and backstabbing while we pull stuff and like kind of manage aggro. And you could totally focus on being like a ranged character if you wanted to and be the person who shoots the bow. So it's a cool game. And I think if you've ever been interested in this genre but been turned off by some of the more like maintenance and jank elements, it's worth checking out.
Cool.
All right. Nice. Well, it's my turn, and there's momentous news this week.
Ooh, yay.
Our national nightmare, our international nightmare is finally over.
Sorry, Andre.
I was able to obtain
I will
a
never
PS5.
apologize to you again.
Oh, you will be ashamed of your words and deeds
Why?
when you find out the truth of Quiet and Metal Gear Solid 5. You will be ashamed of your words and deeds.
I already know the truth of Quiet. That's what Kojima said about Quiet when people were like, bro, why did you make a lady who has no clothes on?
It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
you'll find out.
We'll find out in the story. And then the story is that
like,
she has
She
hard
breathes
time
through her
because of
skin.
injuries.
She
Yeah, it's like
photosynthesizes,
no,
baby.
This is stupid still. This is bad.
yeah, like this
bad.
doesn't make it better
No.
at all. It's just
If anything,
dumb.
it makes it worse because
Yeah.
you used like disability and trauma as an excuse to make us.
And now look
It
at her.
would even be better if it was just like, I don't know, I wanted a sexy lady in my game.
Okay.
You want a sexy lady in your game.
But Andre, when you received your entry to the modern era, did you stretch like Quiet does on that helicopter?
Oh, I did like the whole like shower scene with the PS5.
Oh, so more like a Death
So now,
Stranding.
now your PS5 does
Death
not
Stranding.
work.
See,
No,
Death
no, the
Stranding
Metal
is
Gear
fine.
Solid 5 shower scene.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, well,
You weren't
it's
cranking
real
it?
good when they replace like the model, when they like swap Quiet's model with Big Boss or Ocelot, and it's just
Well, I'm more of a Death
put
Stranding
Norman
person
Reedus in
where
there.
the sexualized character is Norman Reedus. I'm gonna go so far as to say the fetishized character is
Yeah,
Norman Reedus.
yeah, that's God.
So how's the PS5, Andre?
It's neat. It like I was playing Astrobot, and there were a lot of moments just like going around the world, seeing all the little homages to PlayStation like franchises, or not even necessarily PlayStation, but games that were on the PlayStation.
That game goes too. You should finish it.
No, I finished the levels. I didn't like 100% it, but I finished all the levels.
So you did the
I'll
like
go back.
final boss and stuff.
Yeah.
It's fun.
So
Yeah, it's a really neat time.
yeah, and like seeing things like, oh, that's cute, haha, and you know, it was it made me, like laugh and smile a lot more than I was expecting.
Yeah,
was,
no, I specifically laughed a couple of times
Wait.
because I was just like, this is so fun.
Wait, Andre, you can smile? You can derive joy from video games? What?
Sometimes.
I played. I'm gonna let you finish, and I will apologize one more time to you. When you're done, I did play one other thing I can talk about for 2 minutes that I actually forgot I played.
Oh no, please.
On
what was
PS5?
it?
Yes, so I checked out some of
okay.
that Destruction All Stars game.
Oh, okay.
Oh my
I-
god, right.
I have it installed.
I actually think you should play it. It's the worst game that I find weirdly alluring, and we'll be playing more of it this weekend because it's paper thin, and I don't think it's particularly good because it controls pretty well. Like it feels good to play. The cars feel good to drive. Smashing into stuff is fun. It's there's so little there. Like it feels like an alpha for something. Because
Would you say it's like the Bridgerton of video games?
Oh God.
I don't know enough about Bridgerton to say that.
You don't need to. It's like I watched it this week and it was.
Destruction All Stars is much like they were like, what if we did Overwatch with cars? That's like what this game is trying to be.
What if we did Twisted Metal, but we didn't bring back David Jaffe?
What if we did Twisted Metal and it wasn't? There was
and
no.
get out of the car. Like
there's no guns on the cars, so like you just run into each other. And when you get out of the car, all you can do is hit square to maybe nail another player who's running around on foot,
Nice.
or try to steal someone's car.
There's a hot
wait.
coffee mod.
It's not that kind of thing.
Also, isn't this game $70 if you don't get it for free? Like, isn't its retail price $70?
Well, so
and wasn't there
you
something
would
about it?
you would need PS Plus to play it anyway. So
Right.
Yeah.
But only until like the end of April or something, right?
yeah, it's like 2 months. I don't know what they're going to do about the price.
Yeah,
Like,
I can't
could
begin
see
to
them
imagine
changing
paying
it,
money to buy
especially if like reviews and sentiment is bad. It seems like a game they could like work on and try to improve.
It
over
has
time,
currency that you can buy in it, so like just keep it free.
but- yeah,
Is my make it a thing where you need PS Plus to play it. Don't even take it out of the PS Plus library. Like,
yeah.
just make it a thing you can access if you have PS Plus. In that context, I could see keeping it on my hard drive as like, I'll play a couple rounds. They're short and it's kind of fun. The reason I wanted to bring it up is because with you, when you're talking about Astrobot, it does really cool stuff with the controller. That's the thing, is it uses sound from the controller along with the vibration to feel like really good. It feels really, there's good feedback. And then like the brakes, the way that the trigger tightens for braking is like a really good sign for driving games on the PS5, I think, because it feels awesome.
That's neat.
And the way it rumbles as you like accelerate and stuff, the controller is awesome in this game. And that's, I think, part of the reason I'm enjoying it, because there's not a lot of games that really lean into the controller stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this one
and
does a pretty
the
good job of it.
DualSense is really nice, and
Yes.
I want more games to like, and hopefully more will in the future. But I might actually download it just to play. Like
You should
just
try
to
a
hang
few
out
rounds.
with
It's fun.
DualSense. Yeah,
And I'll say, as long as you remember to mute the voice chat in every round, because you have to do that.
gross.
You can do it in 2 seconds as it loads,
Okay.
so it's not bad. But you have to hit the PlayStation button and then square when you're in the match. It's stupid.
Andre, have you gotten used to how you turn the console off yet?
It seems fine. Like, yeah, it's not super difficult. It is weird, like hitting the PlayStation button and having like that extra menu of like, here's all the shit in the game that you can like do right now, or like, you know, your progress and stuff is like, wait, what am I? Oh, okay, yeah, I have to go down to like the smaller menu. So that's like a little weird, but like it's not super like difficult or anything.
I'll tell you what sucks. And my last thought on Destruction All Stars is, if you have PS Plus, you should download and play it. If you have a PS5, check it out, play it. It's fun enough, worth your time for an hour or whatever. And then if you're a masochist like me, maybe you'll play it every now and then. It made me want to play Rocket League, I'll say, because it's a better game with cars. What sucks is when this past week I played some games on PS4 Pro, because I've been playing PS4 games on my PS5 with like the Souls games and Yeast games, and we wanted to watch something on the TV we want to watch something on the PS5. And so I was like, I have my PS4 on my desk, I'll just put my saves on it, and so I can keep playing. And trying to go from resting, like pushing the buttons to make the PlayStation 5 rest and then going back to a PS4. I was like launching apps because I was just tapping it and then pushing left and hitting X.
Oh gosh,
And I was
yeah.
like, no.
Yeah, I have to find someone relatively local to me to buy my PS4 Pro and maybe my games, because I'm probably not going to touch my disc games. Like I got the disc one because, you know, I want to watch some Blu-rays, but yeah, I just, you know, I'm not going to revisit Mass Effect Andromeda anytime soon.
I wouldn't. Don't
Yeah,
write
exactly.
checks that you can't cash.
I feel confident in my assessment of that game, which is it's fine but also disappointing for a multitude of reasons that weren't the technical issues.
I'll say I'm glad that I ended up with the disc one, because it's been awesome to play Dark Souls on PS5,
sure.
and that I have the remastered trilogy on disc.
Yeah,
So-
I picked up Bloodborne and I picked up Spider-Man, and I played a little bit of both. And they're both very good. It's nice to have like the fast loading.
Yeah.
The thing.
Oh my gosh, it's hard to imagine how I didn't have that as somebody that went from a PlayStation like base PlayStation 4 to a PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, it's so nice.
Currently, the thing I'm looking forward most now that I have like a PS5 in hand and I have played Astrobot is. It made me go, oh, Ratchet and Clank is going to be very good because Astrobot has so much in common with like the structure of a Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, that'll be really fun. I'm excited
so.
for that.
Yeah.
What other PS5 games are you looking forward to then, Andre? Or like, are there games you're looking to get back to?
Deathloop, of course, we've talked about it a million times over. Neo 2 just dropped their remaster today, and so that's a free upgrade if you own it, or you can like buy it. So, and then there's like a free upgrade for if you own the base, for if you own like the season pass, and then also Neo 1 is also updated, and if you own Neo 1, that's also got a remaster that's free.
The only thing that sucks about that is I think if you own Neo 1 but not the DLC for it, you don't get the DLC, which is fair, but it also at that point ticks over into maybe I should just buy the whole collection because the DLC by itself. Yeah, but the DLC by itself is like $10 or $15 for the season pass, and if you just get the complete collection, you actually don't spend as much on Neo 1.
I don't have any plans to go back to Neo 1.
I never played it. So I bought it and then I played it for a couple hours and loved it, but then just fell off because
it's not a an Ys thing where you're missing story or anything. They're completely separate and similar enough mechanically. There's like some added stuff in 2, but 2 is definitely building on.
I might play 2 first. I would just like to have the ability to go back, and because as a Souls guy now, I want the breadth of content available across both games.
I'm considering playing Control on the PS5 instead of on like to play the DLC, because like the Ultimate Edition is PS Plus game right now, and I'm like, I could buy the DLC on PC and play it with my new graphics card and probably look better and like higher frame rate, or I could play like in so I'm like, I'll try it on and see if like the controller stuff is okay, but I'm just happy to have it and like feel like I want to play games on PlayStation and console again, because it just became like I don't want to look at my PlayStation with like the loading and stuff. I'm just like, I'm done with you. You make me sick.
The big thing for me is I was hitting a point like if you listen to the show, I was very skeptical about the PS5 and about new consoles, and basically the whole I had to be dragged kicking and screaming into it, and then kind of got my console on a whim.
You happened to be able to order it.
And felt bad about it basically the whole time until it got to my door. But now that I've been playing more on it, I'm like, no, I want to play all of these FromSoft games that I've wanted to play for a long time. I want to do it on this console now because I really like the controller. The loading and performance feels more on par with what I get out of my PC. And I had convinced myself that I hated sitting on the couch and that I wanted to sit at a desk, but it really was just the platform. It wasn't mouse and keyboard over controller or anything. It was just the platform. I still want to play shooters on PC because I'm better at them there.
Yeah, sure.
I will probably play Deathloop on PC. But I hope you play it on PS5, Andre, so you can give me a review on the controller stuff and tell me if I really need to do it.
It'll probably depend on Game Pass situation with that, but I might pick it up like on sale if I end up liking the game a lot, and pick it up on sale later and be like, oh yeah, no, the controller stuff's cool. But I wish they would figure out a way to just like implement all the cool like haptic stuff and the trigger stuff on PC, for games that support it, or developers who want to support it, like Hitman and stuff. Like, they probably don't have any like controller stuff, but
I bet you Sony is discouraging people from doing that since it is a big selling point of the system. Given like the way that they treat VR, like the Hitman VR stuff is a PlayStation exclusive.
It's PlayStation 4 exclusive.
Yeah, don't get me started. But that they probably think of the DualSense as a you buy a PlayStation 5, part of the reason is to use a DualSense.
Yeah.
So I doubt we'll see it on PC anytime soon. I'm sure that people will engineer it, like get it working, like hobbyist developers and stuff, but I doubt you'll see official support for it within games.
Yeah, you won't be able to boot up a game and play it with that stuff. Most likely, maybe mod it in. I don't know, but I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to just being able to spend some more time in games, and like the fact, like being able to boot things up so quick is like another, like, okay, I can just get in here, I can play a little bit, and then like being able to check and go, okay, this is going to take me 5 more minutes or whatever. I can finish this out, or no, I just need to stop right now and go do a thing. Is nice from like the hint system or whatever it is, the activities menu.
Somebody with the human touch. You said stop.
You
right
got
now.
the touch. You got the power. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. So again, you'll all be ashamed of your words and deeds, but for now, I've got a PS5. And that's going to take us into news. Speaking of ashamed of their words and deeds, Stadia has discontinued internal game development at Stadia. All their internal studios have been, people are either reassigned to other parts of Google or are
that's a lie.
can leave. That there are probably very few people who are actually able to be reassigned within Google.
Yeah, like realistically, a lot of those people are going to be looking at new jobs.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, especially if you're like, you wanted to make games and then suddenly it's like,
yeah, like,
but
okay,
you're making
programmers,
browser like 404 error games.
yeah, totally. Like, most people in a game studio, you got your artists, you got your game designers, you got your sound designers.
Hey,
all these
Google
people.
needs Google Doodles.
Yeah,
The artists, they got things to do.
not 3D artists.
Hey, there's always room for them to branch out into new doodle territory. But they did like
Doodle-tory?
they did stop Tilt Brush development too, so
Oh yeah, right. But yeah, I feel like just coming at it from a programmer side of view, like Google, if they wanted to hire people for new roles, they would have hired people for those roles. So if they're just kind of being shoved in there, those people will be the first on the chopping block.
oh yeah, 100%.
And Google lays people off like fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So they're going to be gone fast. Shut up. I don't know if you heard that. It thought I was talking to my Google assistant. I wasn't talking to
listening
you.
They're
I think it's
coming.
always it's hard to speculate at like with 100% accuracy on what's happening inside
No,
of
of
companies that
course.
we're not in, but they don't have a great track record. And
They
No,
have a very
absolutely
bad
not.
track record.
it's
And
not surprising that this happened.
Yeah,
No, it is
I mean,
not.
like, I think when this news came out, all of us were kind of like, "Oh yeah, okay."
No,
like, it wasn't
it's-
necessarily like shocking. It was.
No, it
This is
wasn't.
also stuff they like people they brought on, a lot of people they brought on after Stadia launched, and they're like, oh, and now we're bringing on people to start first party development for Stadia games. Like, what?
yeah, like they got Phil Harrison
your
on
product
there, like-
your product is launched and now you're starting development on first party games.
My favorite response to this news was a tweet that was a picture of Phil Harrison, and it said 47, I will leave you to prepare.
Yeah, it's really good. Like, I'm gonna say, like, I don't have a lot of hopes for Stadia, but I don't necessarily see this news as like this ship is sinking.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's just like
It's shitty.
I mean, could Stadia still theoretically come through it? Yeah.
Totally.
Will it?
To me, it's like the ship never left the harbor. Like,
Yeah.
there were two ships that were supposed to sail out together, and one of them stayed in the harbor, and the other one's kind of stuck somewhere, like not quite off the horizon.
There are a lot of ships leaving the harbor and
And that one ship is all poop deck.
Yes.
Yes, a dump in the dark, Stadia exclusive.
Yeah. I mean,
A dump in
I've
the
got to
dark
be.
too.
If only.
I got to be honest with you. I am disappointed for people. I mean, it sucks for people to potentially lose their jobs or have to move around within the company at the very least. So I'm not saying I'm happy about this in any way, but the idea of Stadia exclusives made me very unhappy from day one, because I was like, if these are studios that could be making awesome games on multiple platforms and I'm going to have to use a streaming service to play them, that sucks.
Well, it sinks a lot of like the talk about Stadia, like, oh, you can, by doing it all in the cloud and like on the Stadia stuff, like you can do, tons of people, like, way more people in like multiplayer games.
It's always been
They
bullshit.
they never implemented any of that.
Well, yeah, exactly. And if they're killing off their first party internal studios, they're really never going to get any of that off the ground, because no one is going to, like Pat said, like people don't. That's such a limited market.
Oh.
So
I think there is a potential. I'm not predicting they will do this, because I think that there's an equal potential that the service as a whole will be dead in a year and a half. But I think I could see Google saying, you know what, we're not a game developer. We shouldn't have gone down this road, and then saying to like Ubisoft or someone, hey, we're going to give you $200 million to make a Stadia exclusive, and courting some existing developers to make Stadia exclusive games that aren't owned by Google.
I mean, they did that with like that one game. There was
I forget the name of
moving. I don't even remember.
I thought that they bought that studio.
Maybe, I don't know. Well, then they probably don't exist anymore.
I thought that the story on that was that game was in development and they were an indie studio, and then Google bought them and then turned it into a Stadia exclusive.
Maybe,
but I could be wrong on that for sure.
It
I
sounds
I remember
feasible.
people weren't like very
wasn't
impressed with it either.
Yeah, it seemed like it was an okay effort for like hey, we're an indie studio and this is our first puzzle platformer or whatever it was.
But as hey, here's a Stadia exclusive,
not a
was
quote
like,
system seller.
okay,
Yeah.
They really fucked up the timing too, didn't they? Because wasn't this the same week they were finally like, oh, LG TVs are going to come with like Stadia stuff like built in now, like literally the same week, I think. Like it's, which that should have been there at launch, and it also should work on Chromecasts, other than the one you have to buy specifically for Stadia.
Yep.
I mean, they also should have figured out getting it to
Stadia.
work on Apple devices before launching. Because I mean, I get that Apple doesn't play ball on that, but
The technology is so good, but they have still just fucked up everything around it so bad.
I mean, the technology is cool. I'm not convinced that it's necessarily as good.
It's really impressive.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's so dependent on your connection.
Yes.
And it's so dependent on like, also when I connected to a PUBG game in it for free, I would never buy PUBG on there, but it was free to play on there for a bit. The game looked like ass. It looked like the mobile version, and it ran like shit. And there was a ton of video artifacting and lag. So it's just like, what on earth? I'm not arguing that the technology at a base level isn't impressive, but it's been
it's
utilized.
not the promise of what they
and it's not even good. It's not like, I mean, they promised the moon. They could have at least delivered like the stratosphere. Instead, it's like playing mobile games in your browser, basically. I mean, same with Farming Simulator. Farming Simulator looks like shit. And
I remember hearing that Cyberpunk was okay on it, but I never tried it myself. So
I'm sure
like,
that
it was apparently better than the PC version.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Cyberpunk of all games was the most playable on it, better than
Yeah.
It's not a very good baseline for that game.
Well, that's our Stadia check-in. We'll be back. But who knows? Probably when it's discontinued. I can't imagine unless it's like super successful somehow. But
when it's in the Google graveyard or whatever it's called.
So I think the reason it could live for a longer time is it might be more complicated for them to dismantle it than to just quietly let it exist in the background.
no, they need to give like 12 people Steam keys for like Farm Simulator 2019. And
Yeah, well,
be
that's
good.
the thing is I don't know how complicated that would be if knowing Google, there's every possibility they didn't come up with an exit strategy beforehand, and they have to figure out what they're going to do about that before they can kill it. So,
They'll just wrap it up into YouTube Premium.
I mean, what I would imagine is they'll stop selling when they're ready to kill it. They'll stop selling the games, but say like, you can still access the stuff you bought. And then
rest in peace, Google
that's
Play
it.
Music. Anyways,
Next story. Only good news here. Yakuza creator Toshihiro Nagoshi is going to be the creative director at Sega. He has been at like a very high position at Sega recently.
CFO?
Something like that. But he is stepping back from that and taking on creative director role at the studio at large. So he'll have a bigger influence there,
Man.
which
I
is
wonder
good
if that
because
means...
Yakuza fucking rips.
What does that mean for the next Sonic? What's he going to do to Sonic?
Oh,
Is
God.
Kiryu going to be in Sonic?
Make him fuck.
Wait, are you saying
Big-
make Sonic
Big the
fuck or
cat.
make Kiryu fuck?
Sonic.
Okay.
Kiryu would never
big-
do that.
No, Kiryu would never.
Kiryu is
Kiryu
my
would
Yakuza
never.
dad, and that's not how that's not
why-
dads work.
Kiryu has to go to jail, so he can't fuck.
Yeah.
But what about Big the Cat?
That he's already fucking kidding me. I'm sure
So no,
you
it's
find
cool.
plenty of art on the internet to prove it.
We could only really speculate on what this means for the studio, but hey, that seems like a cool move, and Yakuza
so good.
is doing some really, really fantastic stuff. And so if people behind that are getting more like influence throughout Sega, that's
I have a-
plus in my book.
I think
Absolutely.
that as part of this move, like the Sega logo at the beginning, they should change it for every single game. It should be Kiryu walking up to an arcade cabinet with the Sega logo coming up.
Every-
To imply that every single Sega game going forward, including Total War games,
Is played by a Kiryu
played
in
on
an
an
arcade.
arcade cabinet by Kiryu.
Also, they should open every game, at least the PC versions, with what they do in Yakuza, which is a big red screen with a gamepad and says "Real Yakuza use a gamepad."
And don't do
Also,
drugs.
also,
Every game.
also including Total War, even
Yes,
though those games
yes.
cannot be played with a gamepad.
Speaking of Sega, this is unrelated to the news we have here, and it's not written down. But did you see the stupid crossover they're doing with Puyo Puyo?
What was
Danganronpa?
it? Danganronpa Puyo Puyo.
What? I did not
Yeah.
see that. Holy
One
Yeah.
in Danganronpa, 1 and 2 Puyo Puyo.
Yeah, not 3.
what?
V3, please.
Oh, in other Sega news before we move on.
Yeah, that's very important, and it legitimately is.
Yeah.
Oh, what is?
No, it's
Library
legit. I'm not.
app.
This
I'm
is
not,
not in our
not
news
joking.
because this is like.
Another thing that should have been in our news. I know everyone was waiting impatiently for it. Total War Warhammer 3 has been announced.
Still not Total Warhammer, damn it. God damn it. All right. Next story. Speaking of Japanese game companies, Creative Business Unit 2, you already know what it is. Final Fantasy 14, next expansion, coming out this year, fall 2021, Endwalker.
I saw one Austin Walker getting pretty incensed at the name here,
They're targeting him directly, and
and he plays Final Fantasy 14. So
I'm
it's
doing my best.
that event was wild. It was like 2 hours and packed with information.
So what I think is weird, and what I didn't realize, I mean, I assumed that the story has been ongoing, but I didn't understand that there could be an end and then they could start another one with an expansion, if that makes sense. Like I thought each story for each expansion was kind of its own thing with the same characters going through evolutions and stuff like that.
They can do whatever they want.
they
can't
are. Yeah.
So I don't understand how this is the ending if they're going to do another story.
Well,
So-
is it
Afterwards.
the
It's-
Endwalker story, the story that launches in the expansion will finish with like it'll just be a complete thing, and then in the patch it's just okay, we're starting a new story here, right?
So
or I guess that's kind of what they've done in the other expansions, though. I don't know.
But they have very explicitly said that this is going to be the end of the Hydaelyn and Zodiac series, which has been the one since like 1.0 and A Realm Reborn. So like this will be the end of the Scions. It will be the end of all these characters, apparently. Like the story they've set up for the past 10 years is
the dragons and the priests
the
who fuck the
fucking
dragons and
thereof. Yeah.
I just think it'll be interesting to see what that means when they start a new story.
yeah.
The whole community is interested in seeing what that means,
sure.
because like
You know what it
it's
means?
really
It
interesting.
means blitzball.
They did say that on
It's
stage.
gonna be a sports anime. It's gonna be a sports RPG.
They have some Final Fantasy X stuff in there and Final Fantasy IV stuff for that matter, but it seems like it's going to be really cool, honestly. Yosh P, fan favorite, he's dedicated himself to making this his life work, is what he said on stage. Like, people were worried about him retiring after this. Like, it was a rumor for a long time, and he's like, nah, man, I'm going to be here till I die, basically. I think he's in
he
his
was that old.
late 40s
50s?
or early 50s, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like he intends to work on this. for a
47
very
years
long
old, so
time.
you're probably gonna get like another 20 years of at least. I mean, he's not gonna die in 20 years. That's not what I'm saying.
No, he's Japanese.
Oh,
He's
I
gonna
was
be
gonna
alive for another like 50.
Yes, he'll be alive for another 40 to 50 years. I sincerely doubt he's actually going to work on it until the day he dies.
No, well, unless he's like a Hayao Miyazaki type, where he's going to retire 7 times and just keep coming back.
Yeah, and just
That's
he's
true.
gonna retire
That's
and then be like,
possible.
"Oh, fuck it, time to
Final
come
Fantasy
back and be
14
part of
2,
it."
Final Fantasy 14 3.
Well, I mean, what's cool about the way that video games work now is they could just put a whole new visual wrapper on this game in a few years, like dedicate a ton of resources to making it look like a next gen game or whatever.
A
And
Realm
then-
Reborn.
It is coming to PS5, Pat.
Yeah,
with
I
updated HD graphics and 60 FPS, like
4K
4K,
visuals and
whatever.
stuff. I think that the character models on this game are starting to. They still look good because they're of a certain style and stuff. But when I
It's definitely
played some of
showing its
it,
age.
when I played some of it last year, I was like, "Yep, this is a game from like several years ago,"
PS3.
which is fine. I'm enjoying a PlayStation 3 game that has been remastered for
Yeah.
PS4 myself right now deeply. So I am the last person to complain about dated visuals. In some ways, I'm coming to prefer old visuals and not just the like created old visuals of new games, but actual old games and how they look.
Well, I'm
But-
stealing this segue right now. If you love old visuals and PS3, Xbox 360 games, boy howdy, GoldenEye remaster was leaked, and you can play the Xbox 360 remaster, I guess, if you can emulate a 360 on your machine, or have like a debug kit or something.
Yeah, it's really cool. If you want to see a deep dive on it, MVG, who we've recommended on this podcast before, Modern Vintage Gamer, has a pretty extensive video on what happened with the leak and like how it happened and just kind of what the game is like. It's really cool.
If I could just boot that on an Xbox, I totally would, but I don't want to go through the work of getting it running.
You probably could on like an Xbox Series S.
Well, I have a One X.
Video Games Chronicle ran a review.
That's hilarious.
That is very fun.
That is really funny. That's great. I didn't
you
see
can,
that.
I mean, it was
you gotta-
basically finished, right? The whole remaster.
was-
So,
yeah.
Pretty damn close.
Let's see. Let's see how many
I'm
stars they
gonna-
give it, or if they what rating.
I'm going to take one step back. Y'all should play Final Fantasy 14. It's really good.
it's still on my list. I'm actually going to check out that PS5 remaster because I bought everything on PS4 when it was on sale, so I can play it there
Oh,
or
yeah,
PC.
you're set. Because it's a free
And I made a
transfer, so-
character. I managed to slide in and make a character on the server that my friend plays on while it was open briefly. So that character is ready and waiting for me to log into and play through.
So, 5-star review from Video Games Chronicle. There are pros,
Really?
cons. In Pro, nearly every texture in the game has been replaced and improved. Now runs at a silky smooth 60 frames per second. The dual stick control system works like an absolute dream.
Who would have guessed?
Makes
Yeah,
an aging
I mean-
game feel modern, even 13 years down the line. There's one con. Boris and Natalia are still a pain in the backside.
Oh.
Wait, does it have the multiplayer? I actually don't remember.
I don't. I guess. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I do love that they just did a full review. That's great.
Very funny.
Yeah. It is extensive. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. I pulled it up and it's like this is a long review. Dang.
Well, no, it's a good game.
And next up, we alluded to this earlier.
Oh,
Everyone
gosh.
loves Resident
Tall
Evil's
lady.
tall vampire Lady Dimitrescu.
A bone to pick.
I don't even know how to say it. Everyone wants her to step on them.
Yeah, talking like we were talking about
Sit
people
on
being
them.
Touch
like
them, sit on them.
horny for games, and it's like like this
Everybody's
is the most,
horny on
everybody's
main
horny
for
on main
Lady
for her.
Dimitrescu.
Horniness is fine. Horniness is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when you're creepy about it, and like in this instance, Lady Dimitrescu is creepy enough. Like, she's the creepy one here.
I think the creepy one is the developer who chimed in to say, "Hey,
I thought that was
you want to know? You want to know
That
how tall she
was
is?"
hilarious.
I like that actually.
that-
Yeah, I
that
thought that was
whole,
fantastic.
In hat and shoes, she is 9 foot 6
So
inches tall.
my frustration point is I saw someone nothing against this Twitter user. I don't want to I don't even remember who it was. It's not someone I follow, I don't think. Saw someone say that Lady Dimitrescu is almost as tall as the Home Depot skeleton, and that's not fucking true. The Home Depot skeleton is 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
If
that's
I
true.
stood next to someone who was like 4'4", you would not say, "Wow, they're almost as tall." There's nothing wrong with this height disparity. Lady Dimitrescu and the skeleton from Home Depot could still have a long and loving relationship. I'm just saying, we need to revisit what the word "almost" means.
Yeah.
well, relative to Ethan.
I mean,
I
but
would bet
that's
the height
not. Like,
disparity
would you
is
say that's even almost though? Like, I don't
the
know.
height disparity is. I guess Ethan's probably like what, 6 foot.
5'11".
Yeah, that would mean that she's much closer to she would have a
I am.
Yeah, but I have to say the statement that they released was very, very good. Where it was
was
just basically
funny.
like it was
It was
very
like
nice.
one of those apology
It looked like it, yeah.
background
It looks a little
white
bit like
text.
it. Like Lady Dimitrescu has especially received much fanfare both domestically and overseas, which has made all of us in the development team extremely happy. And it's just like you just the way that they say it just so calmly rather than like.
sometimes it's
And then
really-
also like this is her height, and it's like, yeah, that's what people are looking for.
because of the dry way that like business people are usually or in any kind of like professional language is usually translated. It's very hard as someone who doesn't speak Japanese to understand when like everyday communication in text in Japanese is supposed to be like humorous or tongue-in-cheek. And so I think a lot of times I miss it when statements like this come out. I miss the humor in them, or even in like when you see things like that Final Fantasy presentation. I'm sure that I am missing some of that stuff in translation, but in this case, it's very clear how like much they're winking at you with this statement.
It's so good.
I mean, it definitely got away
Yeah.
from them. It's just everyone, it's like a Bowsette moment almost.
Yeah, well, but
Yes.
the way that
Oh,
it's
that's
like
a good way-
that
yeah.
moment, but they're very specifically like,
They lean in.
all right, yeah.
Nintendo was like, "This is not canon."
Also, like, I mean, you get it because like Nintendo's like, they
More for kids.
are aiming for like a family friendly, especially with like Mario. But here they're just like, you want to know how tall she is? Well, here you go. It's like,
And it's ridiculous.
Well, so what
So
I'm
You want to know what
really
sauce
looking
she would
forward
eat you
to,
with? She would vor you with.
I'm very much looking forward to in like 3 months when this game comes out and people are playing this game, they're all excited, and then she turns into some horrible, grotesque monster
Yes.
before your eyes.
Like her arms and neck split open, and there's like she
It
turns into like a
becomes
tentacle
some
beast.
nightmare yonic
Yes.
toothed beast.
Yes.
Turns
it'll
into
be-
Big the cat.
There you go. That's it.
there we
Fucking
go.
Kiryu.
and just
Sonic
has a big,
Adventure 3, baby.
big sign that says Sega bought Capcom. What now?
You have to play it with one of those stupid fucking arcade sticks they made. That's the huge Capcom logo.
Mad Cats.
And
I still have
we are going to
check out that
get
demo for our,
we are I can play that
You
now.
can play it now. Yeah. Andre's not sleeping
Yeah,
tonight.
I am so excited now. Oh
I'm
my
gonna
god.
remember to set it up to download when I go over to also investigate
Oh my
That's
god.
funny.
some DLC thing that I need to look at.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, the
no,
Neo stuff.
Shit, yeah. But we're gonna have this game is going to be out a week after the Mass Effect remaster, so we're going to have Garrus Vakarian Thirst paired with Lady.
Oh man,
I'm here for it.
on
It's just gonna be
Video Games Twitter is
the
just gonna be
timeline
Maria
is gonna
Main.
be it's gonna
Garrus
be
is hot.
How
Lady
tall-
Dimitrescu is
how
hot. They're
tall-
both over age or over
tall is
age. They're both
Garrus?
of age.
I'm looking at Garrus' height right now. He's 7 feet tall, so
not bad.
he's almost the same height as the Home
got-
Depot
Yeah.
skeleton.
Look, you got
I should
what you want is a Garrus in the streets, Lady Dimitrescu in the sheets. And by that I mean you want a, what did you say it was, 7 feet tall?
Yeah.
You want a 7 foot tall alien to walk around with you in the street who goes through a
cat
horrific
lizard.
transformation and turns into a 9'6" vampire woman with large breasts in the sheets.
it's what I always wanted.
I'm
The title for this isn't Garrus Vakarian in the streets. I don't want to do this podcast anymore.
Garrus doesn't even need heels to be 7 feet tall because his feet are already shaped like him.
That's right.
Oh
That's
my
right.
god.
This is a long title.
It is.
It is a little bit too long. I was saying that. I'm
It's
like,
fine.
Well, speaking of Garrus Vakarian, the Mass Effect remaster has a whole bunch of information coming out this month from Game Informer. I think it's over the course of the month. They had like a cover story. They've got a whole bunch of interviews and details. One of which the details is they have unasked Mass Effect.
I don't understand why they
This-
felt the need to point like
yeah. I mean, like the shot,
gamers are upset.
a shot of her ass is very, very egregious.
It's not even just
Oh.
her
Iconic,
ass.
though. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's a nice ass.
who cares?
I
it
mean,
is,
like
but
it's like kind of like you like. I remember when I first played the game. I
They
was
took
like,
out her
oh,
vagina
okay.
bones.
That will never not destroy
I
me.
bet Lady
the vagina
Dimitrescu's
bones
vagina bones
discourse.
are enormous.
Oh my god.
God.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Girl.
So
Poor Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Anyways.
I remember when people when the vagina bone discourse came out, people mentioned that it has to be sung to the tune of Banana Phone by Ralphie. And
Yes.
that'll never not make me laugh. It's
Oh, that's funny. Oh.
Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
vagina bone. Another episode of like, I have a lot of fun, but like when Monday comes, they're like, well, how was your weekend? I'll be like, I don't know.
Can't explain this
Anyway.
to you. Sorry, HR.
Sorry, this is not like something I can talk about in the office.
Yeah.
You haven't said anything offensive.
No.
Mass Effect. Mass Effect looks good though. The trailers they showed look good.
Yeah, and I mean, I still think those games largely hold up, at least from what I remember. I mean, maybe again that's from my memory, but and having like a remaster will be nice. So I'm really interested. I know that the second that comes out, I'm like, I'll drop everything and play through it. So yeah.
Alex?
I like how it has all the DLC except for one.
Yes, I was going to say Pinnacle Station
Pinnacle
for Mass
Station,
Effect
yeah.
1 has been lost to time.
Pinnacle Station.
It
It's
was
the moon
lost to
one.
time. They're
I never
like,
actually.
they
the
lost
one
like
you get,
like
like,
source
separate
code
house and stuff,
degradation
right?
or what, like bit degradation. I don't even know.
Oh, maybe
Oh,
they
I'm
contacted the people who contracted out, and they were like, "We don't got it." They did everything they could to try and to get it back, but it wasn't feasible.
I'm kind of
40
excited because
pieces
I
of
actually
DLC.
never played. I actually never played Citadel, which I always
No,
wanted
apparently
to.
it's amazing.
I never
No,
did any of the Mass Effect
but it's like one of those where
DLC.
the DLC never went on sale, and I was really stubborn about it.
Oh,
So
Pinnacle
Yeah.
Station's just the like combat arenas.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And you get the
Yeah.
Shepherd House.
And who's like specifically like, oh, I want to play this game for the combat? Like, let's be real.
Mass Effect 1. Yeah.
Mass Effect 1 for the combat.
So
like
that's I would say prepare yourself for some critical reassessments of Mass Effect when this thing drops.
Oh,
that are
I
maybe
bet.
gonna
I
be
mean-
disappointing to some people.
I think part of I understand that might happen, but at the same time, I'm like, this is such like a cozy
Yeah,
game for me that I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
imagine not loving it.
I'm
But
not
at the same time, like I understand that that's very much a me thing versus like,
I'm not saying
know, people
you should, like not like it. I think like
oh yeah, no, I get it. It's just
it's going to be, I think there's going to be a lot of discourse around Mass Effect that's going to be frustrating from every angle of like, hopefully what we can come away from when the dust settles is it's okay to love the things you like. And it doesn't matter if other people think that they're good or bad.
right. Oh, I bet that's going to happen.
I'm just bracing for it is all.
No, I totally get that. It's just, and part of that is like I know for myself, like the reason that I'm gonna definitely get this at launch and play it right away is that I just love this series, but at the same time, like, you know, I know that's not going to be the case for everybody, and I know that's like
I want to revisit it to see if the feelings that I have about it have changed over time. I'm sure I've said on the show before, but like I love Mass Effect 1, and then I don't
Hell yeah.
care for I liked Mass Effect 2 at the time, and in my memory, I don't really want to play it again, but I don't want to play it again because I like it. I want to play it again to see how I feel about it,
yeah.
Today-
No, that'd be interesting.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, Mass Effect 2's story is bad. It's the story of
Yeah.
Mass Effect 2 is all those side, like the character missions.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if I would even go so far as to say that it's bad. I know that I didn't, in retrospect, I don't even really remember the beats. I just remember the
Terminator,
characters.
baby.
Yeah, and I don't know. I did not like the beginning of that game and etc. But I'll be interested to see. I'll be interested to
God,
try
Terminator,
a
baby.
complete package playthrough of the whole thing because I never. I played like Mass Effect 1 on Xbox 360, and then I think I save transferred my Mass Effect 1 save to Mass Effect 2, but then Mass Effect 3, I want to say I played that on PS3 instead, so I couldn't transfer my save, so I had to like do the thing where you rebuild some of your choices or something. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I played them all on PC, but I'm kind of interested to play it on console now.
Yeah, I'll probably get this collection for PS5 if I get it.
Yeah, that's what I think
Well-
I'm probably going to get mine for PS5 too. But
Well, maybe affecting your decision, Pat, is that mod support is actually being carried over from the previous game. So or many previous mods are going to work with the remaster. They've
That's
been
cool of
working
them.
with the mod makers
Oh,
to make sure they still
yeah.
work.
So
with the
I wonder
remasters.
if people
Get
who
Lady
made mods,
Dimitrescu in there.
yeah, I wonder if people who made mods to make Miranda's ass even bigger, if like the new model kind of cancels the butt size out.
oh, so it'll be like normal butt.
Well, it's not.
Well,
no,
It'll
it's
be like-
not.
I
No,
mean,
they
it'll
didn't.
be her
no,
butt.
Yes.
Wait, they didn't
yes.
do anything to Miranda's ass. They changed some camera angles
Oh,
Yeah.
because there were just cameras.
her
There were
booty's
just
still there.
shots
Well, 'cause,
that were
like,
just
the cut-
straight her butt. It was
Yeah,
just
like, there
here's
was,
her
like,
butt, and then
in-
here's
in,
like
like,
the
focus.
dialogue
Oh.
choice.
And it's like you're talking
That's
to
what people are mad
Shepard
about?
and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
gamers are fucking
It's like-
pathetic.
It's like you're talking to Ace Ventura.
I
Yeah,
thought that they
it's
actually changed the model, which would also be a ridiculous thing to get mad about.
No, they just changed the camera angles.
Where are we in society? How have we fallen this far that anyone gives half a fuck about that?
The
Now I'm
gamers are
pissed.
upset.
We live in a society that.
One that should end. We
Pat
don't
is
deserve
going
a
to
Mass
become
Effect
the
remaster.
Joker.
I've been.
Wait, so-
I got news
and
for
the
you,
thing-
bud. I've been the Joker since like March 2020 at this point.
And the thing that really tipped it over was Miranda's butt.
Well, that's just now I'm gonna start operating without the makeup on.
What's next,
All right.
Andre?
Well, Actually, we got kind of a twofer here. One's not on the list, but the Gearbox classic Battleborn is no longer. I hear there's porn of it.
Yeah, it's so much better than Overwatch.
It is no longer functional. It's been shut down officially.
If you
cannot play it anymore.
If you told me last week I could still play Battleborn, I would have been like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, no, I was like, wait, I saw that and I was like, wait, wasn't that like 3 years ago?
No, it is.
Oh, it was way more than that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, wasn't it officially shut down like 3 years ago?
No,
Like,
no, they started to put it into like they're like, we're not updating it anymore. It's basically in just like maintenance mode, basically. Not even maintenance mode, just it is for now. And also Embracer Group, owners of like THQ Nordic and that whole situation
Used to be Coach or Cock or whatever media group.
and
KOCH.
they I think absorbed Koch Media. Like it's I don't know, it's a weird situation. It's some big conglomerate that owns a bunch of video game studios and has just been amassing them over time. They purchased Gearbox for like 326 million, with like half of that being in like stock, and that they can cash in for up to like 1.3 billion or something like that.
Baffles me that Gearbox could be worth anywhere near that.
Yeah, Randy Pitchford will be staying on board, and apparently
Yay.
Take-Two will continue to work with Gearbox on like Borderlands stuff, like support for all that stuff that they have put out.
Gearbox is not a very good company.
They
make
really
very good
want
games.
the Aliens, Colonial Marines money.
Apparently.
I don't know. But Duke Nukem. Oh God! What if that's why? Does Gearbox own the Duke Nukem IP? Is that what it is?
They do.
Is that why Embracer Group was like?
That sounds like
we're paying 1.3 billion for Duke Nukem.
So sorry, they're THQ Nordic and stuff. Does that mean
He's
they
the
also
fourth
own,
horseman of the apocalypse?
they also own Volition, right? So you could have a Saints Row game with Duke Nukem in it now.
And you probably could have before.
That sounds
anyway.
like
You
something
probably
that
could
would have come
licensed
out in
it.
2006.
Yep. Oh my god.
that I
it does.
don't need in 2021.
Yep. Well, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Speaking of wait and see, Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 have been clarified as not coming out in 2021 by Blizzard.
I don't know why people thought that either of those games are going to come out this year.
Because they've been
Sam was
announced
pretty
for like a
adamant.
few years.
Sam was pretty adamant. He's like, those are definitely coming out this year. Blizzard has said so.
I mean, I don't see how Overwatch 2. When was Overwatch 2 was 2019, right? Like announced?
No.
Sorry. Announced.
They announced it last. End of 2019 because it was BlizzCon 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like November 2019 is when it was.
Because like the way they pitched it, it didn't sound like like there's new stuff in there, but it's not like some massive.
Some
thing.
people,
So I figured they would be far enough along to like do a 2021 release.
Some people on this podcast and in the larger Twitter sphere have not been following Blizzard since the 90s, and it shows. Blizzard takes 5 to 10 years to make games.
They're also not that studio. They're not the Blizzard of the 90s anymore.
Nothing has changed about the way they release games, though.
Yeah, maybe.
Like there was like even their WoW expansions that always get like 6 to 8 month delays. Like they never hit their initial dates.
Yeah.
Well, look at how they promised StarCraft 2. They were like,
Yeah.
okay, Wings of Liberty's coming out, and then the 2 expansions are coming out within a year each. And it took like almost 10 years.
Personally, I don't know that I believe that Diablo 4 was even something they wanted to announce when they did. I think that was something that was like way off, and then they were like, well, we have to say it because people are busting down the doors.
Pissed.
We're getting death threats, so we should probably just say it's out, it's coming, so that.
Well, also the rumor was that was like they were going to show it, and then they're like, wait, no, we're not happy with this for whatever reasons, and it's been very tumultuous. So like with that, like it makes sense that that's not like a soon game.
I know that it would be an enormous thing, and it's not like a small issue, but Blizzard games seem so ripe to me. If I was if I was a up and coming executive at Blizzard, I would say, what if we started our own like early access thing where we put out our games on the Battle.net launcher in an early access state? Because their games take so long to tighten the screws on. It's usually that they just like polish and refine for a super long time. And if they could start selling stuff earlier,
I mean,
and then they wouldn't get shit on for like when Diablo 4 comes out, like if that game is a mess, it's going to be a nightmare. But if they put it out in early access and people are like, well, it's not in a great state, but it's going to be worked on for the next couple of years before 1.0, it would look way better.
Yeah, it'd be great if they learned a lesson from like PoE or Grim Dawn or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but they're not.
No, they won't. Of course not. And in some ways, Overwatch 1 is early access for Overwatch 2. But I don't know. I think they should. I mean, because they always do extensive beta testing. I don't understand why they don't just say you can buy the game and get access to it and play it in an early state. It seems like it would make sense to me. Even if they didn't say early access and they're like, hey, this time we're doing a year-long beta where we're working.
Everyone at BlizzCon gets a beta key or something.
Yeah, they kind of do that anyway, but I'm saying more like let people buy it early, so start making money on it, and then there's less pressure on the teams to crunch and like. Yeah. I mean, maybe how we know.
You could do a slow rollout. You start, everyone at BlizzCon can get in, and then you do. Now we're doing like a slow rollout, closed beta, then open beta. But like you can buy in or something like that.
People love roadmaps these days.
Yeah,
especially ambiguous ones.
Speaking of roadmaps. Apple.
Wait, really? Oh,
I don't know.
That's close.
Apple is lots of leaks coming out of Apple these days about their like autonomous or their car stuff, electric car stuff.
It's probably working from home, just breed some of that.
And supposedly more related to games, they're working on a VR headset with dual 8K displays.
Yeah.
Screens.
$1,000 VR headset.
It's being said it's like probably
3,000.
Yeah.
Which is,
and apparently it has like an upgraded M1 chip from the new MacBooks and stuff like that.
the problem is, what are you going to use this VR headset for?
I would have to assume they're going to, porn. And I would have to assume that
Garrus Vakarian
12-foot tall
simultaneously
skeleton.
being stepped on by Garrus Vakarian and Lady Dimitrescu. I would
one
imagine
on each side, so they're like overlaid.
I would imagine that this is. I mean, Oculus has their own storefront, right? Like,
Yep.
I would assume if you're Apple, you just make your own thing and make it like a Quest, where it's an all-in-one. If they won't, because they're Apple, if they actually made this thing with inside-out tracking in mind and made it a really strong mobile headset that you could also plug into your PC, then I
run it through iTunes.
What I'm saying is, if they made it like a Quest, but better.
Well, apparently that might be part of it, because it's supposed to have like, I don't remember the number, like 13 LiDAR sensors or something all around. So and like really nice cameras on the outside too. So
I'm sure it is a Quest in terms of being like a all-in-one headset for mobile, but I would actually spend a pretty significant amount of money if I could get a VR headset that's like fairly future-proofed, and that is I can plug into my computer and just use it with Steam VR. That's the big question mark, right? Like, they're not going to do that.
Those M1 chips have been performing pretty decently for games, though.
Yeah, I just don't think Valve is going to port Half-Life Alyx to a Apple headset. That's more what I'm getting at. Like,
probably not.
Because of the way Apple's like economy and storefronts work, you're not going to get the same. Like, I doubt there's going to be a hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades for whatever Apple headset comes out.
I almost assuredly not, based on the developers' Twitter.
Oh well, for him,
actions.
But like for them, but like Apple Arcade, you could see some stuff coming to that if there's a VR.
Yeah,
section in
absolutely.
Apple Arcade.
Yeah. It's just going to be hard for me to justify spending that much money on something if it's not something I can use on my PC.
That would be a very niche product, or like a you buy it for like your business, like realtors buy it for that kind of thing. It would not be like a consumer type product. It would be like a business product from like the sound of this and like that kind of price point. Or like, like Universal Studios, Japan, they do like the VR roller coasters, but they do that with like a Gear VR and like stick a phone in it. But they could get real crazy and put the Apple headset on everyone.
Man, if there was an Apple theme park, what would be in it? Halo, I guess.
Marathon.
Oh man, you could have Marathon or Oni. But you could have
Oni fucking rules. That game's so good.
To have some MECC areas, like just get the educational stuff, get number crunchers or number munchers.
You walk in, you've got Epcot, but it's just an iMac, one of like the blue, like the colored iMacs.
Blue ones.
You go inside
like
the
G2 or
Apple
G3?
machine.
I don't even remember.
Everyone knows if there was
the
really an
fishbowl
Apple
ones.
theme park, it would just be a huge white room that you just walk around in.
And you have to wear a turtleneck.
Yeah. One could argue that their offices are basically an Apple theme park.
Sure.
Yeah, the campus.
Yeah.
It would. Anyway, next story.
Walk the Oregon Trail.
NCAA football is back, baby.
I missed this.
We're a football.
With hit college football players like Sleeve McDykel, Bob Dugnut.
I don't.
Are these actually?
Reed,
Are those actually
I
names?
don't know if this is
Mike
real.
Truck, Todd Gonzalez.
Are these actually real?
No,
Or is this
no,
from
these
that
are.
Key and Peele
okay.
sketch?
No, okay. So here's the thing about NCAA football. This new from EA is they can use the college, like the mascots, the teams, all that. They cannot
locations.
use the players.
Yeah, I mean,
We're still on that. That was what killed it the first time.
They cannot use the players. So I was just reading off those fake
Wait.
American names from that Japanese baseball game.
Oh, okay. That's like that. So wait, but don't those games have mod support? Or mods like custom created characters and stuff like that?
So that is what happened before. That's why so they had characters in the game that were very loosely based statistically on the real players. They didn't have the same names and they didn't look the same. But I think they would generally make them like the same ethnicity to not like get into real hot water. But otherwise they were not even resembling the players themselves. I'm sure in some cases there was more overlap, but you could make custom rosters. So what you would do, I played NCAA football every year. I love that franchise. I think it is fucking shitty how college football players get treated. So I have very mixed feelings on the whole industry, but
yeah, totally. Like they're
I love
exploited for the
yes,
schools.
I love college football though. And I grew up watching it and I have those dueling, like lots of issues with it. Still like the sport, still like college collegiate athletics. Sure. So what you would do every year is just like you go to what is the sports website? There's a sports gaming website that is like the big one.
The Score?
And what's that?
Score?
No. But there was always a forum thread that was like there was one person that made the like
Updated rosters or something.
updated rosters for the whole league, and then you would just download those.
Okay, so I had a slight misunderstanding. They can use player names, but they cannot use player likenesses.
Okay. Operation Sports, that's the website.
Really?
Well,
Yes.
I mean, if the players are getting paid for it,
So let's see. Current NCAA rules prohibit EA Sports from paying players to use their names, images, and likenesses in the game. If those rules are still in effect when the game is released, EA Sports plans to include real details such as team names, mascots, and uniforms, but not anything that would resemble the real. Oh, no. Okay. No, never mind.
Yeah.
So
so
not
not
anything that would resemble the real players on the rosters.
So what-
yeah, no, they are using fake. Wow. Okay.
so that was the
Back
same
to
problem.
bullshit.
Nothing has changed then, so there's no reason. Because what happened
So
was
do they have to go as far out of their way as possible to make them not similar to the real players then? So like if you have like a 7 foot tall Turian, like do you have to suddenly make like a 5 foot tall Solarian to like just the opposite?
I don't know. That's they didn't go that hard on making them
Well,
different.
we know
in the
one thing: it
past.
can't be a 12-foot tall skeleton because they're almost the same size. So no one would be able to tell.
But this is ridiculous because I don't, unless they took out custom roster support. Because what I remember the issue being is that players were like playing with custom rosters, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm playing as myself in this video game, and I'm not making any money off of it," which is just obvious, like very much bullshit. So
They don't make
it
money
is-
off
it
of
is-
anything, right?
no, they
The
can't license their
NCAA
likeness and
forbids
stuff.
them.
Like they just
It is
get
not
free
called
education.
it is not called NCAA football. It's called EA Sports College Football.
It's
Oh, really?
also
This new game is EA Sports College Football.
it's also important, not that I am not trying to correct you, Alex, but like a lot of people do say, well, they get their education for free. It's not for free. They like brutalize
work
themselves.
really
they
hard.
work way
Yeah,
more
like-
than
Yeah.
I worked in college, and I had 3 jobs at one point.
They bring in
Yeah,
so
no,
much more
I-
money than like
Yes.
in
Then
many
their
states.
tuition is worth.
Yes.
In many states, college football coach is the highest paid profession.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
I mean, the college that I root for in college football is paying the most highest paid college football coach, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
Ridiculous.
yeah.
And he's a bad coach. So
Yeah.
he makes
Yeah, it's super dumb.
$605,000 per year.
How?
The total
Also-
value of his contract is like $10 million.
Yeah.
As someone, I one of my college jobs was working at the football stadium during games, and that was a racket because I got paid. Well, I mean, it's like they're making so much money, and I was working literally. I was in their like luxury suites, and I was working there, and I got paid minimum wage, and they were not allowed to tip me, even though if you worked at the same job at like a professional football stadium, you got tipped and you could make decent money. Anyways, that's my like non-football being mad at it. And also like it's like we like all of the students could have made decent money off of that, even though it was like the worst season of University of Minnesota football, like by far. Like it was not good, but
I was totally off too. Whatever his 605K is base. He makes like $4 million a year,
yeah. Oh, totally. Because they have like
and that's his new
he's
slash
probably
salary.
provided
He's
with
a bad coach.
Probably provided with housing and like
He was
stuff
making
too.
$8 million when they first signed him.
like the whole concept of like base is wild because like
Yeah.
I know there are people who are like at the start of COVID who are like, oh, I'm going to take a big salary cut. It's like, but salary is like the smallest part of your compensation.
Sometimes, yeah, depending on who you are. Yeah.
Depending, like, and it was like specifically
Salary is my only
CEOs and stuff.
compensation.
I know,
on my health
exactly. Me
insurance,
too.
but-
Me too.
for the ultra wealthy, for the
Yes,
people at the
yeah.
top of these companies and stuff.
It's like that's
Anyway.
like, you know, a
Point
small
being-
part of their salary. Anywho,
It is bullshit that players can't even. at
pay
least-
college sports
Yes.
players. Well,
College athletes should
especially
be compensated, and they should at least be able to license their likeness to a video game company. For fuck's sake.
yeah.
And next, we've got Akira Yamaoka, composer for Silent Hill, has teased a new project, supposedly being announced this summer, and he said, "quote It's the one you've been waiting for."
I am. My favorite part about this story is that I was in a video call with one Jeff Davis, friend of the show, and they are. I won't put words in their mouth. I don't know if Silent Hill is their favorite franchise, but they are a. I remember like drinking and listening to them deliver lectures on Silent Hill until like 4 or 5 a.m. when we were in college.
Wow.
And so I got to give them this news on a call live, and they basically melted into a puddle.
I am very. The problem is there are now multiple Silent Hill like projects people are like waiting for, quote unquote. Like there's Silent Hills, which was going around as a rumor, and then there was just Sony's making like a Silent Hill like reboot or whatever. It's probably that. I doubt it's Silent Hills, but maybe. I don't know.
Could that be
We'll
the
see.
next thing Kojima's working on or whatever?
That is my. I really
There were some hints and like vague teases, but it's hard to say.
well, I mean, and also like there's
We
an
know he's-
established relationship between Kojima and Guillermo del Toro at this point, and Junji Ito is like rumored to be working or confirmed to be working with Kojima.
Well, was
That's cool.
going to be at some
Yeah.
point. Maybe is now. I don't remember.
So it just seems like the orbit of it all, and Sony being having published Death Stranding, I feel like Sony is the company that could come in and be like, look, this is going to make a lot of money for everyone. Just kiss and make up Konami and Koji Pro. Let's sign this deal and make the video game. It just seems like all the pieces fit really nicely.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
Bring the
Stay
fog.
tuned this summer.
It's a new Silent Hill on PS5 would
Imagine,
very cool.
imagine the volumetric fog.
Yeah, I think I can't think of a game that I would be more excited about and announcing.
3D games,
Really.
3D games have come full circle. Like got rid of the fog and now it's back, baby.
Yeah.
Quake 3 Arena 2. For PS5.
And our last news story this week, Robert Altman has passed away. Robert Altman was the founder, one of the founders of
I think.
Bethesda.
Bethesda, yeah.
Yeah.
From
Nothing
everything
but-
I have seen reported, a great boss, great person. From what
Yeah,
I've seen
just-
people talking about, very friendly to
Yeah.
employees. Welcome.
There's a really great story from Megan Sawyer on Twitter at, I think she's ghost_girl13 on Twitter. It's, whatever, it's a handle. Talking about how in 2003 she started at Bethesda, and like one of her first days she went to the lunchroom and didn't know anybody, so she's just like, I'm gonna find someone random to sit with, and she saw an older man sitting there, and so she just went and had lunch with him, and it was Robert Altman. He was just extremely nice, like down to earth, like just sitting there with the rest of the company, conversing with her, who's just like second day as a QA person, just talking with the people of the company. And
My understanding has been, if you watch like documentaries about Bethesda, they seem like a place that is still maintaining a very like sort of small business atmosphere and friendly atmosphere among everyone knowing each other and stuff like that. It's very cool. And I'm sure he was a big part of why that culture existed.
yeah,
Yeah,
he
I
seemed
mean, with that
extremely
type
humble.
of culture, it needs to start from the top.
Yeah.
And like the second that an executive is like kind of creates something different, it'll stick. So, yeah.
It's not Altman specifically, but part of one of the reasons that I hold Bethesda near and dear, even though sometimes their games have been misses for me in more recent years, is like when I was an Elder Scrolls super fan when I was high school aged, and when I was like 16, I found Pete Hines' email address. I think it was buried somewhere on a page on ZeniMax's like corporate site. And so I emailed him and was like, hey, I really want to work for Bethesda. What should I go to college for? And he emailed me back and he was like, go for wherever you want. I can set you up with an internship to start this summer if you want. And I was like, oh, I'm 16. And he was like, okay, well, email me again in 2 years. And then those 2 years, over the next couple of years, Bethesda kind of blew up, and I think he was no longer able to take as many emails from random kids emailing him. But I just remember
That's
at the
really cool,
time,
That is really
I didn't
neat.
think anything of it because I was just like, whatever, I'm contacting a person, they're going to email me back, because I was high school age and just thought that's how it worked. But as
Yeah,
an adult,
no.
looking back at
As an
that,
adult, you're like, dang, that's
yeah.
You look at your unread email and you go, I am ashamed of my words and deeds.
Well, I'm not high enough up in my company to get any emails like that, but it was a really cool thing, and I think it speaks to like the kind of culture that the people that founded that company tried to impart.
Yeah, and it sounded like he was that way throughout all the years there. So
Yeah.
it's a definitely big loss for the company and for games.
75, I
Yeah,
believe.
74, 75, somewhere around there.
Yeah. And on that bit of a bummer news story, that's gonna do it for this week. That's episode 158 of the Gaming Fix podcast on February 6th, 2021. You can find the podcast wherever fine podcasts are hosted and caught. Spotify. I don't know. You're listening to this. I don't know. You figure out where to catch it. It's an RSS feed. To fix.space to find the RSS feed. To see some reviews. I got a review of what was Yakuza Like a Dragon was the last one I did. I'm gonna write a review with a Medium this week. The other things you can find Comic Fix, our comic podcast where people are breaking down WandaVision. Yeah.
Didn't you review Hitman?
I did review Hitman. That's a thing I reviewed. There we go. I couldn't remember. I did review Hitman. You can read that on the site. That went up this week, I believe. Was it? Yeah, it must have been this week.
Yeah, it was this week.
I don't even remember.
I was on Comic Book Fix this week. It'll come out in the coming week.
What do we got coming in the next week, Pat?
Well, we talked about WandaVision some more. Jeff Davis joined us, and we had a 3-person cast. It's normally a 2-person show, but they were very excited about the WandaVision stuff. I won't spoil WandaVision for anyone.
Are you talking about this show? Newest episode?
Yes, the newest episode.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
The newest episode.
I heard
pretty
about,
cool.
I heard about there's a specific cameo that happens, and it sounded interesting from what I
pretty
read
cool.
about it.
I would recommend if you like superhero movies, you should watch WandaVision.
Yeah.
I haven't watched this week's episode yet, but it is a good show.
Do you know the?
No, I'm
not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you.
No, don't tell me. I was like,
I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you to see what happens. It's very good.
Yeah, I was going to watch it yesterday, but Disney Plus was having issues on my.
Don't
TV
look at Twitter.
But
I think it'll be good for you specifically, Allison.
We'll see. I don't want to get your hopes up too much.
I got spoiled, and then I was still surprised when I saw.
It's very cool though.
Seems cool.
I'm going to tell you, it is not Agent Carter related.
well,
or you get too excited.
It's like, hey, FYI, let's fix Endgame and fix what they did to Agent Carter, and I'd be like,
no, it does not do. It does not.
No, I knew they wouldn't do that.
I want a WandaVision Riverdale crossover.
Oh yeah.
I might watch Riverdale this weekend. Now that we've talked.
Well, we also talked about the first issue of the current run of Venom, because the current big Marvel event is centered around Venom and a Venom villain. And whether or not you like Venom, you should read Donny Cates' Venom run because it's fucking wild.
Okay.
They give Venom a crazy space mythology, and it's cool. So you can catch that on Wednesday.
That's Comic Fix. You find that on fix.space or in your podcatcher of choice. If you head over to podchaser.com/gamingfix, you can leave us a review. And you can find the podcast on Twitter at Fix Podcasts, Twitch at Gaming Fix, right? Is that Twitch? All right, okay, good. There we go. Got it.
Games.
Allegedly. Sometimes people be like carving canoes or playing piano.
Watch Brock's H. Yeah.
You can find me, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite pasta variety, on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W, where I've got to find this clip of Lupin from Netflix and share it with the world, because it is one of the best, most ridiculous clips of a TV show using a non-multiplayer game as a multiplayer game I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, so I need to share this with everyone. I'll do that right after this episode, right after we finish here. Allison, where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENY2Y.
And Pat?
KFC dating sim crosses over with Resident Evil Village's big tall vampire lady.
Yeah, it does.
You can find me at PJC Plays.
Playing the KFC dating
Just
sim.
rolling that.
Oh my God. I'm like,
I love you, Colonel Sanders, too.
And Alex, where can people find you?
I don't know.
You can find Sam,
Dimitrescu's
who had to
muscular arms.
you can find Sam, who had to go embrace his young child and his muscular arms at SGCH for parenting purposes. And
right.
what I'm just you made it weird. You laughed. Thanks to Jeff Davis for creating our theme song. You hear at the podcast, and
Probably hearing it right now.
probably
Hopefully,
And let
you're no longer hearing us.
stay wet, gamers.
God.
Well, you get wet in Valheim all the time. Whenever it rains, you're just wet.
Oh,
Makes your stamina regenerate slower. Sometimes you jump in the water and you get wet. Can't sleep while you're wet.
same.
It's true.
You stand by a fire, you dry off faster.
Same.
Yeah, I relate.
It's realistic.
I relate to this about as much as I related to Wide Ocean Big Jacket.
Which is a lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Hi, stream. Look, I'm gonna pause Mario. I'm gonna export my audio. I know you can't actually see that, but oh, well, no, not there. Fix audio, episode 158. Fantastic. I don't know why.